Welcome, everybody, to Crunch Time with Jeff, Booner, Lukas, and Gentry. It is Wednesday, July 10th. And, boys, you know what? Summer's we're getting through it. All right? We're getting through July. You know, we're working. The receiver came out today. We got some more content that we can talk about, along with a lot of other things that are related to the Detroit Lions. But, fellas, how we feeling today? How we feel? Lucas got a new background.
Look at the man. Looks like he's up in space right now. I mean, this man, he's in a different universe.
We moved the setup inside, fellas. So it looked like Cell Block 1 at first because I'm in my room now, and so I can't yell as much because my dad will come down here and smack the fuck out of me if he's sleeping. But I put up I don't know if you can tell that sound, the soundproof stuff that you put when you're recording something. So I put that up so it's not all white, but the internet connection will improve. So there's no more of me glitching out. So until we can fix that, I'll be in here, and then we'll be moving back outside. And then eventually we'll be moving up to Detroit with the fellas.
In a few months, hopefully.
Yeah, that's
sooner rather than later.
That's all that matters, Klotz. Hey, we're finding ways to be great. That's what it's all about.
Plays. Got to make plays.
Got to make plays. I love it. Little soundproofing in there. You know what? Yeah. I like that. I like that. Welcome to the show, everybody. I see Jason in the chat. Steve, Lehman, Tyler, as well. WTF, Stop Yelling Boone, one of my favorite usernames, just random as hell. Appreciate you. The Scratch Golf Show, man.
Scratch Golf Show. What's up? Well. Let's go.
Coach Walk 37, Diggity Dog, Phil, Freddie Fell 313. Appreciate all you guys, man, for tuning in. Like I said, a lot of lines to get to. We're going to talk about receiver that came out today. I was able to get through the first 2 episodes. I wasn't able to get through the entire season yet. I don't know.
Not gonna lie,
you get through.
Booner probably got through it.
There's 8 episodes. I have the 8th episode left. That was it. I literally just have 1 episode. I've almost watched the whole thing. I was at work today.
You're a sicko.
Yeah, dude, I love this stuff. You know what I mean? I love the game. No, it was great though. The whole thing was unbelievable. I can't wait for everyone. I was thinking that as I was going through the episodes, I was like, once I got to 5 or 6, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to talk about all these episodes because there's no way every single person on the show and in the chat watched the whole thing like I have. So I'm not going to spoil anything. Yeah, I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's really not much to spoil. The season happened. Yeah. So you everything that happened.
Yeah, I mean the show's good. I mean, you got an inside look to not only Amon-Ra St. Brown, which was great, but you got to see George Kittle, Debo, Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, and you kind of get to see not only what these guys are like off the field, but kind of things that you don't get to see. I mean, especially the media doesn't get to see. Yeah, so I liked it. We found out some things about Amon-Ra. I know it's all over Twitter, it's all over social media. Or X, whatever you want to call it. But the fact that he played through basically a torn, the oblique injury, the ankle, he had so many injuries that
the foot,
I mean, it was a lot of stuff that he played through that kind of led him to being out for the Panthers game. But man, he played through it. Even the Bucks game, he was still injured and he put up 12 for $140, whatever it was, $130. It's absolutely wild.
I love watching Devontae too because honestly, I always thought Devontae is kind of the Kawhi of the NFL, where he's just so good. It's undeniable. But as far as just his marketability of himself, he's always been a quiet guy, and you really don't hear much for him. So to get an inside look at him, to see how he's actually a pretty personal guy. His relationship with Max Crosby is really cool to see. But yeah, the Amon-Ra stuff was just kind of mind blowing. The injuries that you already knew that he played through a lot, and then I was really surprised. Again, not really a spoiler, but when it was at the Bucks game. And Antoine Randall kind of gave him shit for going down and sliding. I was kind of surprised. I get that Antoine Randall, he was playing with Hines Ward, physical wide receivers where you just didn't go down. But Amon-Ra is a guy who gets fed so much. I think it's smart when he avoids contact as much as possible. Yeah. He already gets hit so much.
I think avoiding the contact when you're injured is smart. I think that's him doing that was all right. That's smart. I personally would be a little if he avoided contact when he wasn't injured, dude, go That's why I think Amon-Ra is because he's he's a gritty guy. I do think though, guys, as I was watching it and I got longer and longer into it, I just think this is going to make more people around the national media and fans fall in love with not just the Detroit Lions, but Amon-Ra St. Brown that much more. I think coming out of it today, at least on Twitter, and I know we're in a lot of Detroit Central the Twitter sphere, as you would say, but like just national media, everyone is just putting posts up about Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like there's barely any post about any of the other receivers or tight ends that were in the show. It seems like every single thing that's coming out is Amon-Ra St. Brown, and it seems like he's the one that kind of stole the show. Like stole the show there, and it's like everyone just is talking about his injuries, the mindset he has, his dad, like everything. Like we did the whole show yet, like the start of yesterday's show on the Pivot podcast that he went on, and everyone's like talking about his mindset. And then today this comes out, and it's like you got to see the behind the scenes actual working on the field with the Detroit Lions of like his mindset and how he prepares and what he does on a day-to-day basis. And like he talked about it on the Pivot, and then you got to see him actually live it and know that none of that was a lie.
So that's kind of a bar you just threw out there, Boone.
I don't even know what I said.
On the Pivot, now you get to see him live it.
Yeah, I love that. But like, when I was watching, that's all I could think was like, we just literally talked about the Pivot episode, and then today you get to see the receiver show come out, and like he is literally just living exactly what he preaches, and it's the craziest thing. I feel like everyone in the country, like I saw, you guys know, shout out Will Compton. He's liked some of our posts. He tweeted out and was like, I'm in episode 2 of receivers. He was like, I already love Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like,
yeah, because especially those other guys, like they're already known as far as like throughout the whole country and even worldwide at some point, because you see the NFL going over to Germany and stuff like that. But they already know who Debo, George Kittle, they've already been on the Super Bowl stage. You know who Davante Adams is. You know who Justin Jefferson is. Not everybody knew who Amon-Ra was. Maybe they knew his name and saw the highlights, but they didn't know the actual person that he was, like a lot of Detroit Lions fans and people that have just been paying attention to him. So I think he really put himself like on a spotlight that people didn't really expect to see, especially you don't see Lions players spotlighted like that a lot. So that's going to get a lot of attention in itself.
You got to see how like confident he was too. Like on the field, you don't ever see Amon-Ra St. Brown talk, and you got to see like him mic'd up on the sidelines, like screaming, like, give me the ball. Like, I want the ball. Or like telling people like, I'm him. Like no one else could talk. Like no one ever probably thought Amon-Ra St. Brown was like that because he never talked. And then seeing him go out there and put those numbers up and talk, and you get to hear everything mic'd up, you're like, oh no, Amon-Ra is him. I think it changes a lot of people's mindset.
Yeah, I see some comments here, and we got Freddie fell through on 3, man. Appreciate you,
Freddie. What a legend.
Rename receiver to whiner because 60% of the show is Davante Adams crying like a baby. When give me the ball, we need to win. Blah blah.
I mean, you ain't wrong.
Yeah, no.
Davante's in wide receiver hell, and the fact that he was first team All Pro and led the NFL in receiving touchdowns the year prior to that, like if anybody has room to say, hey, you need to give me the ball because we need to win, it's Davante Adams, because he's been winning. He's won big games by getting fed the ball. You know, who you got? Kobe Myers? They did. You lost games.
Like the truth, like an honest circle here.
Yeah.
Derek, they should have gotten rid of Josh McDaniels before Derek Carr. Like Derek Carr and Davante Adams.
Yeah.
They had the connection. Like he was first team All Pro with Derek Carr, and like they played together in college. Josh McDaniels at the end of the day ended up being the problem. And I bet you if you end up bringing in Antonio Pierce with Derek Carr and Davante Adams and that team, I bet you it's a completely different story. Like I bet it's way different.
Josh McDaniels should have never been rehired in the first place. You saw what happened the first time in Denver when he pissed down his leg, and then he went crying back to Bill and was successful. Oh, shocker. If you're an offensive coordinator playing for Bill Belichick and you have Tom Brady as your quarterback, you're going to be successful.
Yeah, Steve Lehman, he became a member for 5 months. Appreciate you, Steve. He says odds of Davante being traded before the deadline. I mean, he kept hinting, at least, again, I'm only 2 episodes in, but he kept hinting at the fact that, hey, he wants to win. And I don't know, the Raiders right now, they're kind of in this, find a new quarterback phase. I know they wanted Jane Daniels. They weren't obviously, they weren't close to getting him. But I don't know. I
don't want to spoil it.
I wouldn't be surprised if he asked for a trade in about a year this year.
I don't want to spoil it. Not the end of the show, but towards the back half of the show, he wants to be in Vegas for a long time. Like he wants to win in Vegas. And it's very like he doesn't want to leave. Like there was the progression of him the first half of the show until episode 4 or 5, him being like, I hate this place. I don't ever want to be here. And like meeting with Aaron Rodgers. Like there's literally a clip in the show of him being like, had dinner with Aaron Rodgers. And he was like, this is the best thing ever. Like, I'll be talking to you next year. And then by the end of the show with Antonio Pierce gets hired and he's like, yeah, I'm staying. So
It's the effect of Antonio Pierce. Yeah, I mean he's it's Davante Adams. Like we talk about him a lot on the show when it comes to his situation. It's not really the most ideal. But hey,
I text you guys that today.
Little Gardner Minshew action. He'll be able to give him the ball. He knows his role.
Yeah, no. Football. He fed Michael Pittman, and he was feeding DJ Chark when DJ Chark was going nuts. It was Gardner Minshew that was feeding him the rock. So he knows to feed his number one wide receivers.
Hey, guys.
Boone.
Aidan O'Connell. Don't be shocked. No, don't be shocked.
I really wouldn't be shocked.
If I had to put a bet on right now, I'm a bit. You guys know me. I'm a Gardner Minshew fan. I wanted to be Gardner Minshew. Aidan O'Connell in the show. By the time you guys finish this series, he might be the guy that the Raiders are like, yep. When your number one wide receiver backs him, it's hard to go against it.
Well, Boone, and I hear you, and I'm not saying that Aidan O'Connell is completely ass, but I would say that Jimmy Garoppolo is completely ass at this point in his career. So I think Aidan O'Connell's a step up. So he's like, okay, keep this guy around. Do not re-sign Jimmy. But I think Gardner Minshew, one, he fits exactly what Antonio Pierce wants as far as leading a locker room. And I don't think there's much that Aidan O'Connell can do. I think Aidan O'Connell's a little bit more accurate, but I think they can do very similar things. And Gardner Minshew's just been there and done that before. So I see your point. I think that might be a reason why Aidan O'Connell's starting week 1, but I think there's definitely going to be time in the season where Gardner Minshew's the starting quarterback for this team.
Hey, I'm just at the end of the Davante Adams season in the show, him and Aidan O'Connell walking out together, giving each other a hug, and the conversation that they had. He said he signed off on Aidan O'Connell. That was what Davante word for word. So now a full off season with Aidan O'Connell. Hey. Yeah, let that Boilermaker work, baby.
Well, we saw what he did with Charlie Jones. Charlie Jones. Hey, Charlie Jones.
Very fine wide receiver.
Gentlemen.
What's going on?
Watch out for Tyler Boyd being out. Gentry, how are we?
How we
Gentry,
doing, boys?
Did you catch a receiver?
So I started watching a little bit of it, and what you guys said was kind of spot on. Davante, a lot of crying from Davante, but no, it was really good. I mean, some of the stuff about St. Brown was kind of shocking to some people, I bet, but I haven't watched all of it yet. I'm only like an episode and a half in, so I liked it so far, though. Really good.
I like it. I thought they did a really good job, and they also I haven't gotten to the part yet, but apparently Spenny his voice is on it.
He was. I got to it.
I didn't see that.
What episode is it, Boone?
It's 6 or 7. It's 6 or 7. Okay. Shout out
Spenny, man. That
was a bar too. Yeah, that was a bar too.
Yeah, he had a bar in there.
It's perfect timing too. I know the video he put out was just a black screen, but I'm the only one without a hat on today. I just realized that. Someone put in their hat.
I don't got one on, but I'm inside. It's cold in here. Normally,
I might throw a hat on.
Going on, Boone.
What were you saying? Did you finish your thought? You said it's like a black.
No. So it was a black screen, and then but if you actually watch it in the episode, it's perfectly lined up. Amon-Ra St. Brown, guys, when Amon-Ra St. Brown didn't get selected to the Pro Bowl, he was furious. He was at practice, he was swearing, he was not happy when he didn't get selected to the Pro Bowl, and you could tell that obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown, that man's motivated enough. That put a chip on his shoulder. And then when he had they showed the video of him getting told he was an all-pro, and he just the emotion was just all right, thank you, appreciate it. And then
he got out. Compute?
Oh, it doesn't at all. There's no reason that should happen in the NFL. That's one. I don't think that's ever happened actually.
I can't recall a time.
He was
I think the Pro Bowl, it's coaches, players, and fans.
Yeah. It's a percentage of each. It's 30, 30,
1/3 for each.
Yeah.
So if fans are heavily voting for certain players, obviously Amon-Ra, he's not a national name. That's why I don't look too much in the Pro Bowl. I think All Pro is that the media, I think, or players? No, it's players.
It's the Associated Press, I think.
Okay.
And I think it's the Associated Press. I could be wrong, and I think it's also players and coaches. I don't think there's no fan vote for All Pro though. I know.
No. Well, hold on. All Pro. Yeah, it's NFL writers and broadcasters. Those guys are around the game more than obviously fans watch, but again, fans have different biases and stuff like that. So.
Well, I mean, if you have 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns, and you're not in the Pro Bowl as bad as the Pro Bowl is, then I think I tweeted this out when it happened months ago. It was like at this point, just get rid of the Pro Bowl. If you're going to have a guy that has 1,500 yards in a season and 10 touchdowns and he doesn't even get voted in, he's an alternate. That's ridiculous. Like, yeah, he ended up getting in and he was a 2-time Pro Bowler, but it's ridiculous having that stat line and not even getting voted in.
Well, there's someone on the Lions that could be an All-Pro. Could be. With the season that we all expect him to have. And every day we've been doing a different top 10 list for the coaches, executives, and scouts. They are voting on position groups. They just did edge rushers. And Aidan Hutchinson, Lee McNeil, DJ Reader were not on the top, 20 or whatever
22.
it was. Of their defensive tackles. Here is their edge rusher list. At least the top 6. And we have it on our Twitter at @OfficialCTPod. NFL executive scouts and coaches rank the top 10 edge rushers in the NFL. Aidan came in at 6th. 1, Myles Garrett. 2, TJ Watt. 3, Micah Parsons. 4, Nick Bosa. 5, Max Crosby. And 6, Aidan Hutchinson. Yes, Aidan Hutchinson. Now, I have some other, just some more here. That what was this? A scouting director, a quote from him in the kind of the description here.
Yeah,
he says high ceiling. He will be the next Nick Bosa, per that scouting director. That's what he called Aidan Hutchinson. And I want to pull up the screenshot of kind of the explanation of why, and then we'll talk about really where he can get to when the year's done. And this is based again, like what Tyler's. He's saying he would have Danielle Hunter over Hutch based off last year. But let's get to the explanation, and I'll put that on the screen here. So give me 1 second, and then we'll kind of break this down, and then we'll give our thoughts on if it's fair. Here's the explanation. The former number 2 overall pick made waves as a rookie and broke through after a big sophomore season. Detroit now has a face on the defense after Hutchinson produced 11.5 sacks, 33 quarterback hits, 7 passes defended, and 3 forced fumbles in 2023. And this is the quote I was talking about from the scouting director. High ceiling. He will be the next Nick Bosa. Banking on him getting even better, highly disruptive, physical, and near rare motor.
Love to hear it. Love that.
The highest ranking, you see that? Highest ranking that people had him was 3. 3.
Oh, damn. I didn't even see that.
Yeah, the lowest ranking, someone had him off the list. Someone had him off the list is the lowest ranking.
No way.
Yeah, someone had him off the list for the lowest ranking. But you see the top 3. Top 3 is Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Micah Parsons. So somebody felt like he was better than one of those 3 guys. That's where they were. Micah, TJ, and Myles Garrett. Where are you guys at with where he's ranked and kind of where he can get to? Because that's more of the storyline. Is we talk about 15 sacks. Where can he get to with all these?
Do you have the list past 6?
Yeah, it's under the tweet. I don't know. Was that?
Yep, I'll pull it up.
It's underneath there. I put those and the honorable mentions. I mean,
go ahead and click them.
I just think, and you guys already know how I feel about Aidan Hutchinson. I think he's gonna. I already said I think he wins Defensive Player of the Year this year. It's like you're like last year we thought it was that year 1 to year 2 jump where you saw a lot of guys in their career kind of take that jump to become an All-Pro edge rusher. I think this year it's just a year 2 to year 3 jump for Hutch. Like, and then the sample size you saw is like what he did in the playoffs. He led the entire playoffs in sacks last year. Like, and even before that Dallas game and those games leading up, he had multiple sack games. Like in Dallas, he had 2 sacks. Like, I think the conversation to be had, like someone said Danielle Hunter over Aidan Hutchinson. I think, and I don't know where you guys are with this, when I start looking at edge rushers, I put them in different categories to where it's like edge rushers who are game wreckers, edge rushers who are really good and can get to the quarterback, and then you can go from there. But I think like the Myles Garretts, the TJ Watts, Micah Parsons, Max Crosby, Nick Bosa, now Aidan Hutchinson, I think those are like the game wreckers. Like, they're going to get their hands on a ball. They're going to tip passes. They're going to get interceptions. They're going to force fumbles. They're going to make plays. They're going to get safeties that win you games. Like in the receiver thing, there was the play where Max Crosby gets a sack for the team to win the game and he gets a safety because their defense scores 2 points and they end up winning the game because of it. Like Aidan Hutchinson, he gets basically a sack or a forced fumble versus the Chicago Bears to win the game. Like those are game wrecker type players. Like Danielle Hunter, he goes out there, like he might make some plays and wreck some games, but like consistently on a basis where like your defense, you put him out there, who's going to make the play to win the football game? Aidan Hutchinson's going to. Myles Garrett's going to. TJ Watt's going to. Like those are those guys. So I just look at Aidan Hutchinson is a game record, I think he should be in that conversation with these top 5 guys. And I think we all agree right now he's not in that top 5. You can't put him over any of those guys because he hasn't done it yet. But this is the year that he goes out there, and I think he wins Defensive Player of the Year, and he solidifies himself as one of those elite edge rushers.
Don't let him cook. I have the rest of the list, and then we'll kind of break it down. 7 is Danielle Hunter. So he's right behind Aidan Hutchinson at 7. 8 is Josh Hines Allen now. That is his new name.
Oh,
Hines
God, I already saw that.
Yeah. So
if he's not right behind Danielle, that's what.
And Josh then Trey Hendrickson is 9, and then Brian Burns 10, and then some honorable mentions: Khalil Mack, Rashawn Gary, Hassan Reddick, Jalen Phillips, Montez Sweat, Will Anderson Jr.
Who was 10 again? I'm sorry.
10 was Brian Burns.
Brian Burns. I think that's good. That's a good one. And then the honorable mention.
Yep.
My bad. You cut out there. I don't know if that was on my end.
No, Khalil Mack, Rashawn Gary, Hassan Reddick, Jalen Phillips, Montez Sweat, Will Anderson Jr., and there's a handful of guys that got some votes.
Kayvon.
Yeah.
Bradley
I mean, Joey Bosa, Jonathan Greenard, Matthew Judon, Kayvon Thibodeau, I mean, Bradley Chubb. So there's other guys as well. But now that you have the top 10 list, where are you at? 6, too high, too low? Where can you get to, Klotzy?
I mean, for me, it's hard to say just because when I look at Hutch so far in his career, I think he's in the tier of Josh Allen as of right now. But then when you get to what Booner is saying, I do think, especially this year, adding DJ Reader, and then you just add with the secondary getting better, it's going to give him even more time or less time for the quarterback to make a decision, more time for Aidan Hutchinson to make plays. I do think he takes that next jump. And I think Nick Bosa is a good comp. I just think he still has another season to put it together before we can confirm it, but everything aligns to him being a potential Defensive Player of the Year candidate, and 2024 can be that year if he puts it all together.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what Booner said, too. He said it perfectly. I think that those top group of guys are game wreckers compared to the other guys. And I do think, like Lukas said, with the additions around him with DJ Reader, Ali McNeil, and then hopefully a full season of James Houston and Davenport making some noise on the other side, I think Aidan Hutchinson's going to move his way into that top 5. I think, like Booner said, Defensive Player of the Year, it's definitely going to be a possibility. Hutch is only going to keep getting better, and he's going to be in that top 5 group for years to come.
Yeah, I think to Jeff Olson's point here, he says Hutch is still a tier below those elite guys in that Hunter Allen tier. If you want to go tiers, I do think the Max Crosbys of the world and Nick Bosa, Micah Parsons, Myles Garrett, those guys are in the top tier. TJ Watt, he's
number 1. He's the best in the league.
Shame on me for not even mentioning him first. But that is like the premier top of the top edge rushers. I think Aidan is in that Danielle Hunter, like he said, Jeff said, Josh Hines Allen now, like where these guys are. I think that's the tier he's in. Now, this upcoming season, you'll start to see now him be more known as like, okay, Aidan has arrived. He could potentially go for an all-pro this year and kind of cement himself as one of the better edge rushers in the league. Right now, I'm comfortable where he is. I think 6 is fair. I don't have an issue with it. But I will say this: someone with that type of motor, which they write here about the Nick Bosa thing, it's hard to. And I know when he came out, it was the arms. It was he's got one move, all this stuff. One thing you cannot discount for Aidan is A, his work ethic, and B, his motor. Having a motor is half the battle. He has that. And the size, his what he brings. I mean, he's a massive human being. That also helps. But he works his ass off, and that's similar to a lot of the Lions have around here. So I honestly, he can be in that top tier. I do believe that. Having 20 sack seasons is hard to do, but I do think he can be easily a 15 sack a year guy, which I think would put him in that upper echelon. If yes, you have to show it over a certain amount of time, but he can so do that. I mean, he's getting interceptions too. I mean, the guy, he's had 4 interceptions his first 2 years.
That's the separation for me. Like even if you look at like pass deflections, if you look at last year, like Danielle Hunter 2, Aidan Hutchinson 7, like that's where I just think the game record comes into play to where like making those plays to change a game. I think Danielle Hunter, obviously he had an insane amount of sacks last year. The year before he had 10.5. Like he gets to the quarterback. I just think like Aidan Hutchinson, 4 total interceptions in his career the last 2 years. Danielle Hunter, 0. I just think there's a difference in style of play of some of these guys. Like there's Trey Hendrickson. What did he have? 17 sacks this last year?
Something like that.
Yeah, and it's like I think Aidan Hutchinson's better than him because he changes the game in different ways. And it's like the Nick Bosa's. Like, are you saying Trey Hendrickson's better than Nick Bosa because Nick Bosa didn't have that many sacks this year? No, like Nick Bosa, every single game you go into, you have to account for him. And same with Trey Hendrickson, but like Nick Bosa can completely change the game like that. Like TJ Watt, who was it? What quarterback in their division was? Oh, Joe Burrow just the other day did an interview and was talking about TJ Watt and was like, the problem with the guy like TJ Watt is I can't pass the ball if he's anywhere in front of me because he's so big and he's just going to jump up and tip it. And he was like, that's part of like an effect. And that's like some guys have that, some guys don't. Some guys get a ton of sacks. Some guys get sacks and affect the game to where, hey, I can't even go towards that guy at all. That's kind of my mindset with it.
Yeah, I do. I like your point about being a closer. I think that's important because there's certain guys. I think also what you have to take into consideration as well is the situation they're in. Again, I always bring it up with certain players. I think Aidan, given his situation, another player I would bring up would be Max Crosby. I have a different level of respect for guys that don't have the pass rush help alongside them, either on the interior of the defensive line or on the other side of them, and they're still able to produce and they're still able to wreck games. Like that to me stands out. Last year he didn't have James Houston. And you look at that Chicago Bears game, and yeah, Lee McNeil did play a lot better this past season. But who closed it? Like it was Aidan Hutchinson. He closed the game and it forced fumble, ended it. Like that to me, and I know it was the Bears, and the Bears weren't great last year. But that type of play, given, you look at who he's had around him, I think has to matter. And I don't think it discounts anyone else. I'm not trying to say, TJ Watt has all the help. I'm not trying to say that. But I mean, when you have guys alongside you that can get 10 sacks a year, yeah, it's going to help. Aidan is, up there. I think he led the league in quarterback pressures last year. And I know pressures, depending on who you ask, can be valued and devalued, whatever. But again, he's pressuring quarterbacks with really out of all these players, the least amount of help, which has to account for something, in my opinion.
Doesn't it account?
Not a great secondary either. I will add that. That doesn't help either.
With the defense that and to your point, like the position he's in without any help on the defensive line outside of Lee McNeil, like just look at the big games last season. The Dallas game, let me pull it up. He had three sacks in the Dallas game, 2 stuffs, so 2 tackles for a loss and a forced fumble in one of the biggest games of the season. Essentially, you're playing for a 1 seed, and he goes out there and gets you 3 sacks in national TV, 2 tackles for a loss and a forced fumble, and then you go to the playoffs. He opens it up with the Rams. He has 2 sacks, another tackle for a loss, and 6 tackles. And then the next week versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he has another sack and a bunch of tackles as well. And he's changing the game and he's affecting the game and he's making these teams in the playoffs second. Hey, we can't go on that. We can't go over there. And think about, I would love to see the pressures in those 3 games, like the biggest games of the year, because I would love to see how he affected the game when it comes to pressures. Because now if you give yourself another side, say Davenport works out or James Houston's healthy, and you're doing what Hutch is doing, what he's doing down the stretch last year, that man's going to be very, very, he's going to wake a lot of people up.
I just want to see Hutch with DJ Reader and
that's right.
Leem, with these guys, and hey, maybe a healthy Davenport, maybe a little healthy Davenport, a little James Houston,
happy James Houston, or a happy
de facto defensive end too. Whoever's out there,
maybe a Matthew Betts,
maybe a Josh Pascal gets out there. hell, Levi's listed as a defensive end sometimes. Maybe you see him lost some weight.
Yeah,
if he makes the roster.
Maybe a secondary that doesn't get beat off the ball right off the snap.
That matters more than people think. I don't think people if you have a secondary that's getting guys are giving up plays early. Yeah, it's gonna hurt you. I mean, and vice versa. Like those, the secondary and the defensive line, they complement each other. And the Lions just didn't have that, especially at corner, obviously.
I remember
they've had some good players, but man, corner has been rough.
I remember that Packers game, the one that you were at, Jeff, when Jordan Love started cutting the Lions up, and I remember Hutch was getting a lot of flack for that, because I remember people were saying, "Oh, well, Hutch is getting to the quarterback. He's giving Jordan Love way too much time." And I went back and looked at Jordan Love's first like 8 completions, and I got my. It's so crazy, guys. When we were like talking sports and we're in media and do these things, when you say stuff, you can fact check them. Like it's the craziest thing. Like, you can fact check people. And when people were saying Aidan Hutchinson wasn't getting to Jordan Love and Jordan Love had too much time, all right, I pulled out my stopwatch just right here on my phone, this beautiful device, and I started timing the Jordan Love passes. And Jordan Love and the receivers were just up wide open, and it was like a release time of like a second and a half. And Hutch is like there, but he a second and a half, like that's just like hiking the ball, looking. Oh, wide receivers already beat him. Boom, you're done. And it was like the first like 8 passes. So it's like now you have a secondary.
Add on top of it, the dude was getting double and triple teamed at some points he'd get the guard and tackle, and then the tight end would chip him on the way out to his route. So it's like he really wouldn't have a chance.
I see this comment here from Tyler. He says, Booner, Daniil had 4 forced fumbles last year. So when you bring up Hutch's interceptions, you got to bring up Hunter forcing turnovers.
Ooh.
Were you the Daniil Hunter versus Aidan Hutchinson? I think Daniil Hunter, he's so good. I think he was the youngest player to reach 50 sacks. I think that's an actual thing. He was the youngest player in NFL history. I don't know if he's still the one who owns that title. But I remember there was a time where he had a career year last year, but youngest player to reach 50 sacks coming off a season where he had 16 and a half. Like, yeah, like I said, I think he's in the same tier as Hutchinson. If you want to put him at the top of the tier, like, you can do that. I don't mind. Yeah, I don't, but I think those guys are kind of in a similar tier. But yeah, Daniil Hunter is.
Yeah, I'm not taking anything. I think we've been pretty clear, and we had this conversation a while back, and we did tiers for edge rushers, and we all agreed that there's that tier 2, and it's the Aidan Hutchinson, Daniil Hunter, Brian Burns, like Josh Allen, Trey Hendrickson. I just think Aidan Hutchinson's at the top of that one. That's just my preference. That's what I think, because I do think like Aidan Hutchinson was in year 2. What is Daniil Hunter in year 7, year 8?
Yeah, that's why it's easy to project for it.
Yeah, so like.
My bad, Boone. Keep going.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say the other thing, too, is just like Hutch, and even in the fact that Hunter's in year 7, I think Hutch is already better against the run. But as of right now, like literally just because if he's coming off statistically his best career season, I'm not a stats guy, but I still think that was his best career year. So by de facto, I'm going to put him above him entering the season. But by the end of the season, like it's going to be Hutch, especially. And I don't think Hunter's going to have that production either, even though Will Anderson's over there. So that's where it's going to be interesting to see, because I could see Hutch having more production and Daniil Hunter still has that bookend opposite of him.
Yep, I agree. I agree with that. I mean, again, it matters who's around you. And Aidan finally has capable players around him to some extent. But still a question mark. I'm still, go get Judon. I'm still on that. Go get Judon. I think you see Judon.
Go all in.
It would be
scary. Can I ask you guys a question?
What's up,
I saw Easy in the chat, and Easy had asked a question about Matthew Judon, and I think the question that they asked on the heavyweights was, would you how did they phrase it? Would you sacrifice not extending Aleem McNeil and letting Aleem McNeil walk after this season for Matthew Judon to come in and win a Super Bowl?
No.
To win a Super Bowl.
That's one of those. So it'd basically be like,
like a rental for a year to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, but Judon's a one-year deal.
But essentially it was like if you had to move on from Lee McNeil at the end of the season and you bring in Judon, it with essentially like bringing him in on a 1-year deal. And I don't know what maybe
probably.
Yeah, maybe I don't know if that was it. That was just a scenario that they brought up. They didn't really say anything re-signing, but it was more so like, would you rather go all in on Matthew Judon this year and let Aleem walk and win a Super Bowl this year? Because if you bring Aleem or Judon on this defense, you're like, knock on wood, no injuries. That's a football.
I think like you're saying, like, or he was saying, probably sign him next.
Maybe he was. Yeah, maybe he was.
You win a Super Bowl though. You win a Super Bowl, then yeah. If you win the Super Bowl, then yeah. Then that's fine.
Like, and now I'm coming at you, but like, if for that question, I would say you could do both. You can trade a 4th round pick for him at the trade deadline, have him for the whole season with Aleem McNeil, and then he walks and you re-sign Aleem.
Yeah, I think the scenario they set up was just more so like you had to do one or the other. You had to do one or the other.
Yeah,
I would honestly sacrifice a 4th round pick for Matthew Judon for a season. Like I get
it. I would give him a 3rd, 2nd. Take it
just for how much I think he would impact you right here, right now with this team this year. I mean, I just think this defensive line would be now you're talking about getting after Mahomes or whoever's in the Super Bowl in the AFC or Brock Purdy for that matter.
You're sitting there.
Now we're talking.
With the one of the biggest weaknesses on your team, the other side of Aidan Hutchinson, which there's not a lot of weaknesses on this team. You filled that gap in, and it's hard to find any hole on this football team. Like, that's a Super Bowl roster. Like, maybe it's not guaranteed, but if you add Matthew Judon to this roster, I already think they're going to win a Super Bowl. You add Matthew Judon to this roster, that is a Super Bowl team. Like, they win the Super Bowl.
Honolulu blue sleeves.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he could play the run. You brought that up, Lucas. I'll bring up a lot when you talk about Judon. He can play the run. Absolute menace, rushing the passer. You look at his defensive line now as a strength. It makes your secondary better. Aaron Glenn's jumping up and down. Now we're happy.
He's a Dan Campbell type of guy too.
Absolutely. I still think, regardless, like in free agency, if he doesn't come to Detroit, but if they don't acquire him at a trade deadline type of thing, I mean, this is where he played college in Michigan, so that'd be a place where he'd be likely to retire. So I still think either way, just keep him at matter of time till I could see Matthew Judon being on the Detroit Lions team.
I will say this: there are reports within the last 24 hours, Matthew Judon is in talks with the Patriots to get a contract extension. Sadly,
do it, Judon.
And it said both sides want to get a deal done. So
he's gonna get paid. That's why.
I mean, for that, do it. But for championship aspirations, don't do it.
If I'm him, I wouldn't do it because the Patriots, they're probably the worst team in football right now. Them and the Panthers. So if I'm him, like you sign your next 2 or 3 years somewhere that's like the worst in football, that you're just wasting the rest of your career there.
Yeah, and you got to think if I'm the Patriots, and I'm looking at Judon, he wants to get paid, and let's say you do give him a lot of money. And he's like, well, I want to get traded. Now you have to take into consideration that the team you're trading him to is going to have to factor in the contract. You'd rather trade him away now while he's got that contract he's on now, and you'll actually get assets for him. Like, I think it's going to be tougher to trade him when he signs a max rather than, because he could sign it in a year and be like, we stink. I want out. It's like, I don't know if we can move that contract, my guy. But now they can move him. So I don't know. I would take a rental, man. At some point, when you get to that Super Bowl level, like your Super Bowl or bust, it's okay to have rentals. You don't have to re-sign everybody. You can bring in a guy for a year, compete, try and win a Super Bowl. And if you do it, bye. You got what you wanted. You got it. So I think they should. But you know who else is going to help them get to that Super Bowl? And we talked about him yesterday, and it's someone that I'm still high on, despite what people are discussing with the safety room and Brian Branch and Iffy, and should Kerby be the one that gets kind of squeezed out? Well, Kerby went on, I believe, NFL Network and talked not only about the Detroit Lions Super Bowl aspirations, but what he's been doing this offseason. Gained 15 pounds, fully recovered from the hip injury, a little bigger. And he had a lot to say. So let's get to this clip about him speaking about the Detroit Lions or Super Bowl aspirations, and then we'll talk about what he's been doing to become a better player. But here's that clip.
Speaking of hype, your teammate Aidan Hutchinson said there is well-deserved hype around your Lions after going to the NFC Championship game last season. What about that hype? Why is it well-deserved?
I mean, it just goes to show that, man, like, we're here, like the Lions, like, we're not the same no more. Like, we're just coming for it all. You know what I mean? Like, we want to change the narrative around the organization and just showcase for the fans and showcase for the city.
Kerby, I was actually at that NFC Championship game. It's last season, of course. How transformative? Because this offseason, it feels like this team is hungrier than ever. And I'm just curious, within the locker room, as you get ready for training camp, how transformative that moment was, knowing you were really that close.
Like Coach said, man, it take a little bit more. Like, you just got to keep on going. You can never stop. Once you stop, like, it's over, And the fact that we got that far, like, it shows that we can do this. But we just got to put the little things together and just come together as a whole team.
That's what it's about. I mean, you heard Kerby there, and he also made CBS. They're an all breakout team, and it's players on rookie contracts that could take the next step in 2024. And a player from the NFC North, they did safeties. He made the safety list. It's him and Jahmyr Brown from the 49ers, who I actually like a lot. I do like Jahmyr Brown out of Penn State. But Kerby Joseph made that list as a potential breakout player. And again, he spoke about how he's gained some weight, 15 pounds. He's fully recovered. And, he's excited to get back this season. They asked him also, I don't know if they asked him specifically, but it brought up, because you know how Kerby got a lot of crap for how he tackled, going at people, TJ Hawkinson and who was the tight end? Tyler Higbee. Yeah. And he said, like, it's not going to change my approach. Like, if I see ball, I'm going to get ball. It doesn't matter. And the most impressive, one of the more impressive things about Kerby, and I brought this up yesterday, is, the 8 interceptions in 2 years. The consistency. Consistency is very valuable in this league. He had the same year. What?
Nothing. Keep going. Keep going. I'm sorry. I'm just my mind's going. Keep going. Keep going.
He had the same year last year that he had basically his rookie year. Like, he's just consistent.
Exactly the same, actually. 82 tackles both years and 4 interceptions both years. Literally, I made that. I don't know if you guys could see.
I was looking at your notes. Yeah, and I was, okay.
Literally the big word I put for Kerby when I watched this and went over this, all I was like, Kerby Joseph could be great in the NFL. It's just like he's been consistent. You said it the other day, Jeff. He has some slip ups in coverage to where he lets up some big plays. If he could find a way to just cut those, and he ends up being like because he's been consistent for 2 years. Like 4 interceptions in back-to-back years is insanely good for in any player. So that's big time. But if he could find a way to get consistent to where he's not giving up those plays, and he just turns into an absolute dog without giving plays up like that, Kerby Joseph can be one of the best in the league. That's why I think they have him as a breakout player. It's because he's put the stats up and he's made big plays, and in national televised games and like in big time games. There's just like these small, and there's just these small slip ups that he has every once in a while that I think a lot of Lions fans and a lot of people are like, can't have that happen. And if he gets like extremely consistent when it comes to that game after game after game, he could be one of the best in the NFL in his position. I think it's just that's all it comes down to. Like him putting up those numbers shows how good he can be. I think.
I think Kerby's play, as far as how he plays the game, is always going to be inconsistent. There is going to be times when he misses as far as on tackles. With him adding weight against the run, I do think that'll help. But I think as far as just his consistency and willing to know that, okay, I'm going to make mistakes, but I'm going to make up for them next drive and go make a play. So I can live with that, because that's a lot what people loved Glover Quinn when he was in Detroit. And I loved Glover Quinn. He led the NFL interceptions. I think it was like 7. And he was a guy that always took chances. Yeah, he missed on some, but the ability to make plays that he has, not a lot of other DBs can do that consistently, to your guys' point. So I don't know if I expect him to break out, but I think he's going to be a guy that, as long as he's on the Detroit Lions secondary, he's going to be leading the team in interceptions. Like, you can bank on that. There could be a year where maybe Brian Branch does, but as far as just a ball hawk safety that can create plays in zone coverage, whether you can run man coverage with your cornerbacks, and you could say, hey, Kerby, hey, Branch, go make a play in zone coverage. You can do that now, especially with bringing in DJ Reader. So I do think his play is going to step up, but I don't think it's going to be like a huge jump. I think Kerby Joseph is always just going to be Kerby Joseph.
Yeah, I think that's what you get with Kerby. Like, you get the big play ability. You get the turnovers that he will create, which are so valuable. But then you kind of get the other side, which, like, you're risking it. But sometimes he's going to give up some plays. That comes with the territory. He's not going to. You can't have all the risk and reward without, or you can't have reward without the risk. Like, that's my point. That's it is.
I do think like the difference though between like players like Kerby and then like the elite players in the NFL, the All Pro players, is like not giving up those like
that, and just in the run. Like, when you have players like that put up that type of numbers interception wise and then stop the run, that's when you start looking at the Troy Palomalus, the Ed Reeds, the players in that tier. And there's no disrespect to Kerby. I just don't ever see him being that. I could see Kerby being like a 1 or 2 time Pro Bowler. And that's, again, not a knock, but I just think even with the emergence of Brian Branch, I think Branch is always just going to be kind of putting a shadow over him. And there's something that he can't really help.
Yeah. And it's the reason why I'm so high on Kerby in the safety room. And I mentioned it. We talked about it yesterday, re-signing who, and we went through guys that are going to be available for extensions at the end of the season. And Iffy being one of them, I mentioned out yesterday, I think Iffy would probably be the one, if he has a big year this year, to leave, because you have Kerby and Brian, and you're going to have to re-sign some players. and I'm comfortable with Brian and Kerby. And it's not a slight at Iffy. I know what Iffy brings. It's very valuable. They have good safeties. No one's denying that. But when you have Kerby Joseph out there, it just, again, I say it again, it changes the way quarterbacks just have to play. Like they have this level of fear because Kirby's out there, down there somewhere, and he's going to force turnovers. Like, you just have to account for that. And not just the turnovers, but he gets his hands on a ton of footballs. I mean, I think he had a career high in pass deflections last year, or it might have been the same as the year prior, but he gets a ton of pass deflections. He gets interceptions. Like, he not only just turned the ball over, but he gets his hands on footballs, which, I think that does matter. The coverage stuff, yeah, I mean, I get it, but when you have a better, when you have a better defensive line, it kind of helps everyone else. That to me what is going to happen. But I think Kirby's going to come out, show people, show everyone, and not here in Detroit, but at least nationally. Like, hey, I'm one of the better safeties I can be.
I hope so.
You got to be a little better in coverage. That's all.
I think Klotz is right with this one though. Like, if he's got to break out, like, I think Kirby's Kerby, but like for him to break out, like, you have to take that. Like, I just pulled up some of the stats here from some safeties and like tackles. Some of these guys are at 130, 140 total tackles, 120, and he's at 80 the last 2 years. So like, he has to take that jump. Like, he has to go out there and finish tackles and make plays, be a playmaker. And like, that's what those great guys do. They do that, and they go out there and make plays on the ball. That's kind of my mindset with it. But like, I kind of agree with Klotz.
But do you think this is a genuine question? But how when we look at box scores during the season, and you see like your corners and safeties lead your team in tackles, it's usually a bad thing because the defense.
Not so much safeties, because safeties a lot more times, like if you get through, especially wherever you're lined up, maybe for a free safety like Kerby, because you broke the defensive line, the linebackers. But even with like a guy like Kerby, like, there's a chance that he's going to miss the tackle. Like, I think it's like Kirby's one of those players where it's like, just do your job, do what you're good at. Don't try to do anything else, because when you try to branch off of that, that's when mistakes are made. Like, people forget that Kerby Joseph was playing wide receiver in Illinois a couple years ago. Like, this guy's not one of those guys that's just been playing safety forever. So you're excelling at one thing, at making plays. You have Brian Branch, you have Carlton Davis, you have Terry Arnold, you have Amik Robinson, you have Ennis Rakestraw. You have all these guys in front of you that are just consistently stable at what they do. You know that they're not going to be putting up highlight plays as far as in the turnover room, maybe Brian Branch, but you know that Kerby Joseph can be that guy. You have all the security in front of you. You have the flexibility to be able to be like, hey, Kerby, let's see what you can do here. Go get one. Go take a risk. Like, that's Kirby's job, because he does that better than anybody on this team. And that's what he'll always be. But as far as stopping the run, you get Derrick Henry running at Kerby Joseph, and I think it'll always be like that through Kirby's career.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I add this though real quick. I think just on Kerby, I think a couple things. One, I don't know if we'll ever have a bunch of tackles, just because I don't know if that's him. And also, there comes, if you're a player like Kerby and you're a ball hawk, like, you're not always going to get thrown at either. I guess in the run game, like you said, it's different. But like, he's not going to have. I think quarterbacks are going to do their best to avoid throwing it at him. Like throwing at him directly, unless there's guys where
That's where you got to. That's what makes like the elite one to do it consistently. Because like, all right, now you know about Kerby Joseph. How can Kerby Joseph make cover 2 look like cover 4? You know what I mean? So okay, the quarterback's gonna try to get one out there, but because he can cut, like, that's what makes him so good. He can cover half the field in 3 seconds.
There was a couple plays he made last year like that, like the Raiders, where he came across like halfway across the field, and I believe that was the one I'm thinking of.
I mean, a lot of his highlight plays are just like, oh my God, how did he get there? Because it's a fade down the sideline that you're like, oh, another touchdown, and here comes Kerby Joseph just out of nowhere. Against the Vikings, you're probably thinking about Boone.
Yeah,
it might have been the Vikings one. Yeah,
nuts.
Yeah, and
I would love to take Kerby Joseph's over in interceptions this year. Like, I think he gets another, like, to that point. If that's like, hey, this is your job, go out there and just be elite at your job. The man's gonna go out there and get another 4. Like, give me his over. If it's 4.5, I'll take 4.5. You go out there and get 5. Like, give me that all day with Kerby. Especially, like someone in the chat put it, as elite as your run defense is on this team, he doesn't, like, that's not his job. Like, he doesn't even have to worry about like that.
And you have 2 linebackers that are 100 tackle guys,
130 tackle linebackers. Like, you're fine. Like, yeah, I get that point. Like, you don't need Kerby to go out there and get 130, 120 tackles. Like, stay with the 80. Just go out there and just ball hawk the whole time, and like I'm with that. Whoever said that in the chat, I don't know who it was. Give me the over though. Over 4.5. Give me the 5+.
I like that. I do. Well, it is. It's almost 9 o'clock. We're about 9 minutes, and we want to do a new segment today. And it's something that I was kind of texting you about, Booner. It's it's a good idea. It's a great idea. It's the off season. Booner's going to introduce some teams. Booner? We should start. We'll do Lions versus other NFL teams win totals and pick who has more wins, and then we'll go around the NFL. Is that how we're going to do it?
Yeah. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 5 Lions games or 4 Lions matchups, not games. I'm sorry, matchups. So essentially, all this is what this is going to be. It's just like this or that, basically. So I'll give you an example. The Detroit Lions and the Cincinnati Bengals. What team is going to win more games? That's essentially what we're doing. I went back to some old archives of some segments I've done in the past. In preseason last year, we did segments. One of the examples that I texted Jeff was last year. And it actually, when you think about it, it made sense. But last year, there was a full segment on who's going to win more games, the Detroit Lions or the Jacksonville Jaguars. And that was when the Jags, everyone thought Trevor Lawrence was going to be an MVP.
What a time.
Yeah, the Jags actually started 6-2 last year, which I forgot all about that. So, like, there was that point. And then right when I heard that, I was like, oh, that was a good segment we did. And then I'm like, we should do that again, but we should do, like, the teams that we have here and you guys can kind of think ahead a little bit. The Lions, Bengals, the 49ers in a couple, the Ravens in a few, and the Chiefs as well. So I've got all the top teams here. We're going to go team by team. We're going to break it down. So
let's start with the Bengals then.
Let's do that. Yeah. So I'll give you guys an example. I'll start you guys off. The whole time, since we're doing 4 straight Lions, I think the Detroit Lions are winning 13 games this year.
Okay.
So across the board, 13 games. I went through the Bengals roster and looking, or not the roster, their schedule. I've got the Cincinnati Bengals this year winning that division with 13 wins. So I think the Bengals end up getting 13 wins, and I think the Detroit Lions have 13 wins as well. And I think the Bengals are probably the number 2 seed in the AFC this year.
So Bengals versus Lions. That's who wins more games.
And I think it's a tie. I think that's a chalk.
I love that you have the Bengals winning that division, Booner, but the winner of that division is not winning 13 games. That's going to be like 11, 12 win team. I have the Lions winning 12, but I have more confidence in the Lions winning 12 than the Bengals. So give me the Lions for that, especially the Bengals got a lot of new faces. They're still going to be a really good team, but the Detroit Lions chemistry right now is probably tops in the league, even over the 49ers.
We'll go around and then we'll give Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of agree with Lucas. I don't know if the Bengals will get 13 wins, and I had the Lions at 12 wins, and I'm really high on the Bengals and Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow is going to have an MVP season, but I don't know. That division is tough, and it really sucks because I wish we could go through every team's schedule, but I think I'm going to go with the Lions on this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Lions too. I think it's about a game difference, if I'm being honest, maybe a game or 2. I think I have the Lions. I'm with Booner. 13 wins. I think I had 12 or 13, whatever it was. And I think the Bengals will be like, if the Lions win 13, Bengals will win 12, 11 games. Like I have the Bengals winning double-digit games. So I got the Lions, but by a game or 2.
Real quick, and I want to throw this out here to you guys, and this is an actual factor when we're talking about teams, like when you're going through schedules, and it's the same thing with the Lions. Like the Lions have a tougher schedule this year because they won their division last year. So every division they're matching up against, you're against the team that won the division last year. So like that's just how the NFL works. That's how they match you up essentially. The Bengals last year, guys, were dead last in their division. So their schedule, I went through their schedule before the show. They have a schedule to go win 13 games. I'm going to read you off the teams here that they play. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
The New England Patriots, the Washington Commanders, the Carolina Panthers, the New York Giants, the Chargers, the Tennessee Titans, the Denver Broncos, the Las Vegas Raiders. That right there alone is 8 games that I think they win all of those games. They play 7 of the worst teams in football because they were like, and the divisions they're matched up against are like the worst in football. And then on top, that's already 8 right there. Say they only win 3 in their division. That puts you at 11. And that's them going 3-3 in their division, which I see them going 4-2, but let's say 3-3, that's at 11. And then the last 3 games they have throughout the season, they have early in the season, the Chiefs, the Eagles, and the Cowboys, which I could see them winning 2 of the 3 of those. With the Cowboys, I think they beat, and then I think they can beat either the Eagles or the Chiefs, like winning a game at home versus one of the 2. So like I don't think it's crazy just based off of them getting last in their division last year, getting matched up with they have an easy schedule. Like their schedule, it's in their favor if Burrow stays healthy. It's really in their favor.
That's one of those things like in a perfect world. And I'm not even concerned about Joe Burrow's health this year just because they had a lot of time off. They improved that offensive line, but I'm worried about that defense. Losing DJ Reader, I don't think they did anything significant to improve that. And you talk about Trey Hendrickson, how he's been having that production. It's been specifically in the pass rushing game. With no DJ Reader, I think that's going to be a huge blow for him. Losing Joe Mixon, I think Chase Brown is going to be a better running back long term, but I still think there's going to be a lot of pieces that they got to count for missing. And when you talk about playing a team like the Titans or like the Raiders, like I think those games are very losable for the Bengals this year if they go in there sleepwalking. And every NFL team is going to go sleepwalking into a week, regardless of who it is.
Yeah, and you have to factor in too. I'm not talking about you, Boom, but just in general, when we do these winner, like how many games this team will win, so on and so forth. You're not just factoring. You can factor and just do strictly on paper and be like, this team will win, this team will win. How I did the Lions in other teams I'll do. You kind of have to factor in injuries, like just parts of the game you can't control. You're going to drop a game you're not supposed to. Like there's just random things that occur.
Yeah.
Like, and you're not saying this isn't at you, Boom, but just to kind of clarify, I see some people had higher win totals than us. That's just how I looked at it. But anyway,
I do think like to my point though, like with that, like, or I guess to your point, I do think like that's why with these, like looking at the schedule plays, I think that plays the biggest factor because, and I know we're not going to dive super deep into like road games and when the games are in bye weeks, but like just looking at their schedule and saying, all right, how many easier games do they have on their schedule? They might drop one or two, but they might have, like I just pointed out, 8 or 9, like just games versus the 8 or 9 worst teams in football. And in their division, the Ravens are going up against the top 8 teams in football, and they're not playing any of those bottom teams. So like, it is a little bit different there. I mean, obviously they're playing the similar divisions, but that's kind of how I factored in. I think the schedule. I think the schedule is the biggest factor out of anything, to be honest.
No,
so we all agree Lions win more games than the Bengals.
Boone had a draw, I think, right?
Draw. You had a draw. Well, everyone was either draw or win more than the Bengals. Who's next, Boone?
The next one is the Detroit Lions and the San Francisco 49ers. The two head-to-head here, the 1 and 2 seeds, in my opinion. I'll let you guys go first.
I'm going to say that I've been saying that the Lions are going to get the 1 seed. I'm going to alliance with you there, Boone. But I think it's going to come down to a tiebreaker as far as I think they're both going to be 12-win teams. I think both of them, I think it's going to be a draw, but the Lions get the 1 seed by tiebreakers throughout the regular season. I think they have a better NFC record.
Fellas, Gentry, Jeff,
BMG.
What do you think, Mike?
I don't know. I was trying to look through their schedule a little bit, but I don't know. I still think the Niners will be the 1 seed, and it just won't be by that much. The Niners will probably win. I don't know. Actually, no. I think I'm going to do a draw. I think they'll both win 12 games, to be honest. That's what I'm going to do.
Copying out of Klotz's playbook, huh?
I wasn't even listening to you.
Words from the wise.
Just
completely just disregarding what I have to say. Then you're not locked in, Gentry.
He ain't worried about you, few.
It's a little bit cuz to you. I'm few to you. A little bit cuz.
I will. Oh, this one I think it's gonna be close. It's gonna be close. I'm gonna go Lions. I think the 49ers have been the team that everyone has been fearing for a long time, and I think they're going to be good. But at some point, with all this BS that's been happening with the 49ers, including the Ayuk stuff, which Freddie Wise put in there, and I can appreciate that because Ayuk, not on the 49ers, drastically changes things for me. I'm going to go Lions. I'm going to give them a game, just kind of like the Bengals. I think it'll be close, maybe a game difference. Maybe there's a tiebreaker involved, but I have faith. I think the Lions win more games than the Niners, and they get that 1 seed this year. Yes, I do. So I'm going to go Lions.
Wow.
I think what could be a big fact, what I said draw for, is I think Lions win week 17, lock up the 1 seed, could possibly rest week 18, and the Niners are still going out there to get the 2 seed.
Yeah, I think the Lions win obviously 13. I think the 49ers are at 12. I think like they play the AFC East, Bills, okay, Dolphins.
Ooh, hey, watch out! They're going to shred that secondary.
All right, Bills, Dolphins, Jets, and they play the NFC North this year. NFC North is tough now with the Lions, Bears, and Packers. They don't have just a walk in the park schedule this year. I'm going to say 12. I'm going to go 12 for the 49ers.
I respect it, though.
Got to regress at some
like
point.
end the year, they have like seven like tough matchups in a row for San Fran. So
I hear you, Jeff, as far as regression, but when you're a run team, I think that's where it's different because it's so easy to stick to your bread and butter, and it's so hard to stop if you're good at it. With passing, it's like your offensive line goes bad, your wide receivers go bad, your quarterback gets hurt. There's so much more into it compared to the run game. I think it's just so much simpler. Especially when you have that type of defense.
I'll throw this out there. I've been on I'm trying to poke holes in the 49ers belief. People believe. My first one was Ayuk getting traded. I think that hurts them. The other one, maybe Christian McCaffrey gets banged up a little bit. Maybe if he goes down.
Who's the running back they draft? They got that running back from Louisville, though, the one that can just fucking fly. And he's no C-Mac, but I don't think C-Mac's gonna Gerardo, or I think that's where he went. They picked up a running back in the draft.
And they got the wide receiver
that could fly. And they got Ricky.
And
I don't think C-Mac's a guy, and I don't think he's somebody that's just going to be season-ending injury, especially at this point in career, unless he can't help it. But if C-Mac can play throughout the season, he might miss a couple of games, but that offensive line with Kyle Shanahan will be just fine. Because I understand that Trent Williams isn't Trent Williams that he was, but it's still Trent Williams. Yeah. And the way that Kyle Shanahan just develops run plays, like, they're going to be fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Christian McCaffrey, I'll go back, Hey, I'm not drafting him in fantasy. I'm not drafting him in fantasy. I'll tell you that. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I told myself the same last year and drafted Justin Jefferson instead, and that got me absolutely nowhere.
Well, don't take him this year.
I'll take
AJ McCarthy. I wouldn't touch him.
I'll take Justin Jefferson. He put up 1,000 yards in 10 games.
Hey, that was with Kirko.
And then quarterback proof.
No, that was with Nick Mullins. Josh Jobs.
And I see Jeff Olsen says can't play that game, Jeff. What if Amon-Ra blows his knee? Then Lions are cooked. I understand injuries are part of the game. But would you agree that Christian McCaffrey, he's dealt with some injuries more so than a player like Amon-Ra St. Brown? And he plays running back, and he gets a heavy workload.
For sure.
So
Christian McCaffrey's had quite a bit of injuries in his career.
That's why I'm leaning that way. But yeah, I get it. I get what Jeff's saying. I mean, Aidan Hutchinson goes down, things change. I understand Jared Goff going down, things change. But I'll go Lions. Does
Debo Samuel get hurt? Debo Samuel gets hurt all the time. Last year, Debo Samuel gets hurt, and they lose 3 straight games.
Don't let Juwan or Ricky get loose. That's
Dude,
not what
Debo. It was in the receivers Netflix. It was in the receivers documentary. Yeah. Debo Samuel got hurt, and they lost 3 straight games, and they're like, "We don't know what to do. We don't have Debo. We need Debo." They were like, they were shook. They're all. Shanahan was like, "I don't have a." He was like, "The only playbook I have has Debo in it. I don't have a second. I don't have another playbook. Every playbook I have has Debo." He was shook.
I mean, the Madden
That's
curse.
Your goat too, Jeff.
Oh.
Yeah, well, Kyle Shanahan, yeah, I will say I do like
was
Kyle
shook
Shanahan.
for 3 straight games. He didn't have a backup playbook without Debo Samuel.
I mean,
saw what happened in the Super Bowl too. Think you'd account for it by then?
Oh, well.
Yeah, he had no clue what to do. All right, next one here. I want to do this next one, and I'm going to give my prediction first, and then I'm going to let you guys play off of that. The Detroit Lions and the Kansas City Chiefs, and Detroit Lions 13, as always. Stick with that. The Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know if this is going to shock anyone, but last season the Kansas City Chiefs had their worst football team that they've had with Pat, ever, and they won a Super Bowl. And I think they won 13 games in the regular season. They got better on both sides of the ball, and I looked at their schedule. The Kansas City Chiefs this year, they're going back to 2 years ago. They're winning 14 games this year. I think the Kansas City Chiefs, I think they end up winning leading the NFL in wins. I think they have 14. The Detroit Lions have 13. It's not going to affect the Detroit Lions at all, obviously, because they're going to take the 1 seed in the AFC and the Lions will have the 1 seed in the NFC. And I think that's going to end up being the Super Bowl matchup again, is the Lions Chiefs there. Not again, but as we've seen in the past. So I think 14 wins. I think they lead the NFL with 14 wins. Their schedule is not that tough, and they got better. Like their offense, they got better, dude.
Yeah.
I think this is Patrick Mahomes' best year of his career. And I understand that we've seen him with Tyreek Hill, and that's at the same time that Travis Kelce was in his prime. But I think Patrick Mahomes, after last year, saw what it was like to put up numbers, not crazy numbers, but with nothing. And now he's just going to have a new perspective of the game. He was making plays with Justin Watson out there. And now he's got Hollywood Brown. Now he's got Rashee Rice. Now he's got Travis Kelce back. Now he's got Xavier Worthy. So I think this is going to be MVP year for Mahomes. They're winning 14. I could even see 15 wins. So I think this is just going to be a crazy year for the Chiefs offense.
No, I agree. I think Patrick Mahomes, obviously, with all the weapons and new wide receivers he has, this offense is just going to be way better. And I took a peek at their schedule, too. It is not hard by any means. I think the Kansas City Chiefs, like you alluded to, Booner, are going to get back to the regular season winning ways. So I think they'll at least get 13 to 14 wins. I still had the Lions at 12. So either way, I think the Chiefs take this one.
This dude, Jeff, loves going against the grain.
No, you know what's wild? The Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs and Andy Reid. In Patrick Mahomes' career, he's 74-22. And the only season he's lost more than 5 games was this past season. They went 10-6 and they won the Super Bowl. Like, I don't know. I don't know how you can't pick the Chiefs. And I know I get it. The Lions, I think they're closing the gap, but the Chiefs, what they did this offseason, they added weapons. I know they lost L'Jarius Sneed, but they still got that. Wait, what'd you say?
They lost Willie Gay too. That's my guy.
But I think the Chiefs overall, they're still going to be a good team. And I could see them going out messing around, beating on that bad division. They're going to play the Broncos twice, the Raiders, the Chargers. I mean, that's 8 wins right there. I mean, it was 6 wins right there. I mean, what are we doing here? I'm gonna go with the Chiefs. I think they beat up on their bad division, and they go out and win probably 14 games. And the Lions.
Like, I understand.
Look at their defense. If people are trying to say their defense is going to take a step back, I mean, pull up their depth chart.
They lost their all-pro corner, but they kept their best corner. Like, Trent McDuffie, without a doubt, was outside of Chris Jones, their best defensive player last year. The man was an all-pro.
George Karlaftis, Chris Jones, Mike Dana, Drew Tranquil, Nick Bolton, Leo Chanel, Trent McDuffie. I mean, guys, Jalen Watson.
Nick Bolton.
They have.
And disregard the personnel that they have, Boone. They have Steve fucking Spagnuolo,
the best in the game.
From week to week, can just wreck your offense. Like, it doesn't matter if you have a better offense. Steve Spagnuolo knows how to put, kind of like how we give Aaron Glenn credit for cooking with nothing. You can give Steve Spagnuolo absolutely nothing, and he's going to give you a 5-star dinner. Like, the man just knows how to put the best personnel out there to win a single game. Week to week, the best game plan.
At the end of the day, the weakness that they had last year, like, their defense was their strength. Yeah, they might have lost a player or two on the defense. They still have an elite defense, Steve Spagnuolo. Their weakness was their weapons on offense. All they bring back the same exact offense on top of Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy. Like, they didn't get rid of anyone on their offense. They just added 2 more pieces, and they're not like average pieces. Like, Xavier Worthy is going to be very good, even though he's a rookie. Like, look what Rashee Rice did as a rookie. Right. You don't think Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, they're going to make Xavier Worthy look good? They're going to make Hollywood Brown look good. Look what Juju Smith did in Kansas City. Like, they make players look good, and especially if you bring in elite players, those guys are going to look that much better. I think they improved. They go from 11 wins to 14. They had 14 2 years ago with the good roster. I think they have a good roster again. They get to 14 wins. Now I'm going to say this, though, and I'm going to be honest with the people, because I'm always honest with the people. I don't lie to the people.
Be honest.
They might win 14 games and get to the Super Bowl. They're not winning 3 straight Super Bowls. They're not doing it.
Wow.
The Detroit Lions are going to the Super Bowl and beating the Kansas City Chiefs. That is what's going to happen. They're not going to, like, the Lions are going to stop. The Detroit Lions are going to be the team that stops them from being the only team in NFL history to win 3 straight Super Bowls. To three-peat, the Detroit Lions and Dan Campbell will stop that.
It's the only hope the NFL has in the line. You throw up the 49ers up there again against the Chiefs, they're going to get ran through.
Give me the Chiefs. The only team that'll beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl is the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, can't put the Eagles up there either. Eagles are worse than they were that Super Bowl.
I just think the thing with the Detroit Lions is
I still think the Eagles they bounce back, though.
They do. Yeah, they win their division by like 2 games, I bet. Chiefs. I think they win their division by 2 games.
They're not beating the Chiefs, though.
They lack the moxie, the grit. You put Sirianni on the sideline against Andy Reid. He's pissing on
I like Nick Sirianni.
Yeah. I liked him more, and then this year I think showed a lot of his true colors. It made me appreciate that roster a little bit more.
And what's going to happen
this year?
This is what's going to happen in the Super Bowl. The only person that knows how to stop Andy Reid and what he's going to do, it has nothing to do with football. It's Dan Campbell, and Dan Campbell's going to step up, and he's going to do a pregame speech, and all week long he's going to talk to this Detroit Lions team, and he's going to be talking about, look what they're doing with Taylor Swift. Look what they're doing with Steve Spags. Look at this. They just think they're better than us. They don't have grit. They love to just be in the spotlight. They don't have any grit. We have grit. We've got Detroit behind us. They don't. And then he's gonna motivate them to go win a Super Bowl and beat them. No one else in the country will do that. It'll be a Dan Campbell, and I can't wait to see the behind the scenes Super Bowl stuff of Dan Campbell.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm drinking energy drink tonight. I'm buzzing right now.
Everyone's gonna have that Cabinda face just locked in when he said, "Yeah." Is there a chance? And maybe not. Is there a chance? I think there's a possibility that there's a draw. And the reason why is the Chiefs maybe a little lackadaisical in the regular season. Maybe they go out and win 12, 13 wins, and then they go win a Super Bowl. I mean, or get there to a Super Bowl. I don't want to go against.
They lost week 1 last year. I think the Chiefs still have a way to have like a chip on their shoulder. I just think they always will. Like, I don't think the Chiefs are a team that, if their offense is able to put up points, which they really weren't this year, is never going to be sleepwalking. Just they're so well coached. It's the best coached team in the NFL. Lions are 2, 3, wherever you want to rank them, but the Chiefs are 1. They've already won 2 Super Bowls back to back. Like, they're not going to be sleepwalking. Like, they want to go get that 3-peat. Yeah, they can't get the 3-peat. They can't get the 3-peat.
I think there's those
get
teams,
3 fucking Super Bowls. It's that team.
There's those teams that they're not sleepwalking at all. Like, look at the Patriots; they never were sleepwalking. Like the Warriors. Like when you have dynasties, yeah, like you just know what it is. They're going to be back. It's who can knock them off the throne. There's only one team that can do that.
Well, who's up next, Boone? Who do we got?
All right, let's do this. All right, we're moving on from the Lions because those were all the top teams that the Lions kind of. The top teams in the NFL that will even compete or even be close to the Detroit Lions. This is a narrative one, and I'm interested to see what you guys think. This one's really just for me. The Dallas Cowboys versus the Buffalo Bills. Who wins more games? Let's go around the room. I know
he's trying to trap us with this one.
I know. I want to see.
Ain't nobody getting trapped.
I'm gonna go with the Cowboys by like a game. Like, I don't even want to say that. I just think the AFC East is a little bit more difficult than the NFC East. And then you go to coaching. I don't love Mike McCarthy by any means, but I think he's better than Sean McDermott. But then I get to the quarterbacks with Josh Allen. He's a Mount Everest above Dak Prescott. I don't know. I'm going to go with the Cowboys by game just because of the division, Boone.
I'm going to agree. The Bills have a tougher end of the schedule. I think it won't be by much, but I think it will be probably by a game. I think the Cowboys are going to take this one. I'm still, even though they have lost some things and you kind of wonder about their offense with no running back and Tony Pollard, excuse me. But I still think they'll be able to string things together. Dak and CD showing their explosiveness last year. They still have Micah Parsons on the defensive side of the ball. So, I don't think it's really a big difference, but I'm going to take the Cowboys.
Yeah,
I'm ashamed saying it, but
I think both teams will miss the playoffs. Yep.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
I think both teams will miss the playoffs, and I have the Cowboys winning one more game like Klotz. I think the Cowboys can go out and win 9 games, miss the playoffs. And I think the Bills could win 7, 8 games and still miss the playoffs.
Did you say Klotz?
Klotz. Klotz.
All right, I'm going through it over here.
Not to be mistaken with blood clots, but
I truly enjoy when I'm on the right side of an argument. Like I know, like we had a lot of arguments last year. We did a lot of shows together. I can sit in this chair over here, and I just know. I don't know if this sounds cocky. I just know when I'm right.
No, I mean you just self-proclaimed a right take by yourself.
I just know when I'm right. Last year when I was sitting up there telling you guys, hey, don't mess with Trevor Lawrence. And I was telling you guys, hey, CJ Stroud, and I was telling you guys to do that.
Oh, you're talking about the Bills right now. Boone,
the Bills will win 11 games. The Dallas Cowboys will win 10 games, and the Bills will win more games than the Dallas Cowboys this season.
See, we can agree on the game split, and you're just picking the other poison there. That's fine. But can we agree as far as we're talking about regular season? The Dallas Cowboys, throughout like their tenure with Dak Prescott, have been a regular season team that looks like they're about to go on the Buffalo Bills even last year. Struggle a little bit in the regular season, but they get hot in the playoffs and they can beat any team on any given day. So you're talking about total wins, regular season. Yeah,
I think the Buffalo Bills last year had like one of their worst years yet with Josh Allen, where they struggled a ton, and they still found a way. They still found a way to win 11 games. And on the other side of the things with the Dallas Cowboys, they might have been regular season teams consistently. I just think there's one of these years where they're going to blow up essentially. And 10 wins is a blow up for them. All right. I just think there's a year to where they struggle. They get second in their division and they fire Mike McCarthy, and 10 wins for them is not good for a roster that they've had and what Jerry Jones' expectations are. And I think they end up getting 10 wins. And I think that's like 10 wins, probably wild card or just outside of the wild card in the NFC, and they end up firing Mike McCarthy. And that's how I think it happens. Now, the Bills, I think the Bills just somehow no matter who they have, they're just always they're just going to find a way to win 11. They're going to find a way to get it done. They did it last year. They did
James Cook is their workhorse running back off 2 rushing touchdowns last year.
Can't
wait.
James Cook.
No, I like James Cook.
It fits my narrative because Sean McDermott and Mike McCarthy will be without jobs. So therefore, they won't be successful.
All right, that's fair.
Booner thinks the Bills will fire Sean McDermott after winning 11, 12 games.
And overcoming a bad roster for Bills.
Yeah, and overcoming a bad roster. I don't understand the narrative here.
I have some things in my head that I need to work out. Let me work out.
Got to part ways with some demons, Boone.
No, it's all good.
I've got another month until football. Let me figure this out.
Just working out the kinks.
I've got it's like that the gif of like Zach Galifianakis, like the numbers in front of him. I have a month to figure that equation out. The equation's everywhere in my brain right now.
It's okay. Who's up next?
Last one. This one is for the show. This is for the people. This is going to get the people. This is going to get you. I'm going to answer last again, and I'm really just going to let you guys just go off on this one. The Jacksonville Jaguars and the Indianapolis Colts.
Oh,
take it away, boys.
Give me the fucking Colts, and don't you every day of the week and twice on Sundays. Listen, and I know Jeff's gonna be over there picking his hero, Trevor Lawrence, who I also like, but he's gonna be all in on him. I understand that. But let me tell you something. Anthony Richardson, Shane Steichen, Jonathan Taylor. Keep in mind, Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson have not played a game together. So the NFL is not seeing that. With Anthony Richardson running these RPOs, I've said it all the time about the wide receiver that they have. They're 4 or 5 deep. They probably have one of the most underrated offensive line in football, without a doubt a top 10 offensive line. And then they have like a fringe top 10 defense. So you talk about the Indianapolis Colts, to me, they're at 11 at their ceiling, which I don't think they're going to get, possibly 12-win team if there's an injury that happens within the division on another team. But the Colts, and I'm not even thinking twice about it.
Yeah, I would think again. I think the Jags are going to win more games than the Colts. I promise you. I absolutely promise you.
You don't want to make that promise, Jeff.
No, I'll make that promise.
It's over. Hey. Let me go ahead, Cook, and then I'll rebuttal.
No, let me explain. Okay, so Trevor Lawrence just got paid. Okay. I think Trevor Lawrence last year will not be Trevor Lawrence this year. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to improve dramatically and show why he was the number 1 overall pick. You look at what they've done, their defense, Eric Armstead. They already have Josh Hines, Allen, and they still have other guys like Trayvon Walker, and they have more pieces in their secondary. Their secondary is not great, but it's not bad. Like, I think they can get by with who they have currently. They got a couple pieces, but offensively they added. I mean, Brian Thomas Jr., Christian Kirk. They added Gabe Davis. I think he's fine in the role he'll be in. He's not like, they have a plethora of weapons. And they also have Evan Ingram, underrated tight end. Like, I think they have enough, and I like Doug Peterson, to go out there and win 11, 12 games. Like, I think 11 would be fine. 11-6 for them. They were 8-3 last year, and they added more players. So, and then Trevor Lawrence went down. He had the injury, and then everything kind of got derailed. But if you're banking on Anthony Richardson with the sample size you have, they can go ahead.
Don't let Joe get in there.
Go ahead. I mean, hey, you put your
but get back to it again. much better offensive line. They're a run-first team that can stuff the clock with anybody. So when you look at that and you saw that how they performed with Gardner Minshew with no Anthony Richardson and where Shane Steichen is, I'm taking Shane Steichen right now over Doug Peterson. Shane Steichen understands the NFL right now better than probably about 70% of the league, and that's including Doug Peterson. Shane Steichen's going to probably be top 7 coaches in the NFL one day. And I just think he has all the tools. He has a good GM, good coach, and I think a quarterback that has everything that you could possibly want him to be. He's got a good head on his shoulder. So I think Anthony Richardson, if he's a top 15 quarterback in the NFL this year, he doesn't have to be something crazy. This team's winning at bare minimum 11 games. They're just built. They're built better. They're built better to win football games.
Can I make a statement?
11 games.
Can I make a statement?
Sarah Boone.
The Jacksonville Jaguars will win more games than the Indianapolis Colts.
Oh, you're parting way with the Colts take. You can't come back.
When you were out of Klotz, when you were out of office, I had pushed the Jags over the Colts. I think a healthy Trevor Lawrence, Klotzy's Wi-Fi. We lost Klotz.
No, I don't think that was Wi-Fi. I think he's
I think it's Wi-Fi. Yeah, I think he is running from the smoke. That's what it sounds like. I think what we saw last year in Jeff, I think you're going to agree with this a lot. A healthy Trevor Lawrence. The Jaguars were 8-3 last year. A banged up Trevor Lawrence. The Jaguars finished 1-5. The Jaguars got rid of a couple guys on offense. I know you guys don't like Gabe Davis, but I think going Christian Kirk, Gabe Davis, and Brian Thomas Jr., I think Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be really, really good. I think they have the weapons to do it. I think last year their weapons without Trevor Lawrence, I think they kind of smoked out a little bit, and they're like, no, we're like they didn't perform like we thought they were going to. And I think they said, all right, we realize that they aren't going to perform, and they went out and got 2 new weapons. And I think Travis Etienne has a year. I think Trevor Lawrence has a year. And I think those three receivers, Evan Ingram, I think they have all the pieces they need. I think Gabe Davis, if you think he's trash, he's your wide receiver 3. So like he's your wide receiver 3. So it's not like you need him to go out there and make plays every night. You have Brian Thomas Jr. and Christian Kirk. And then I think their defense is able to take a step this year as well. So I don't think it's that crazy. I just think looking at them last year with the healthy Trevor Lawrence starting 8-3, and then Trevor Lawrence gets banged up and hurt, and they finish 1-5. People are overlooking that a lot.
Overlooking one of the most overhyped teams last year.
It was overhyped, and then the team started 8-3, and then Trevor Lawrence got hurt. So they weren't really overhyped. They were hyped up. They were 8-3, and then they got hurt. Injuries hit them.
Their wide receiver 1 last year was who? Supposed to be Calvin Ridley. Gone. Now it's Christian Kirk. Now you're bringing in. I'm just talking. Hear me out here. So they have Christian Kirk. Now you have your wide receiver 2 is Brian Thomas Jr., rookie wide receiver. I think will be fine. But let's not act like Brian Thomas Jr. is a guy that does not need to develop in the NFL.
Don't listen to him. He's colluding takes right now. He's colluding takes.
Me?
Yes, you. Because I said the Titans were going to be better because they added Calvin Ridley.
No. I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about.
It's been good with Calvin Ridley. No, maybe that's why they went 1-5.
Can I finish? Can I
let him finish up?
It's colluding. You're colluding takes.
Can I finish?
Don't collude takes.
You let me talk? You keep talking? Can I keep talking? Keep talking.
Not when you collude takes.
Listen, what I'm saying is this team is going to have to go through process.
It's my turn.
They're not going to have to. Like the Colts team, like I said, when you talk about a team that can win consistently through the NFL, the Jaguars are a pass-first team. That's going to take some development. And if you're relying on Brian Thomas Jr. as a wide receiver 2, I could see it in like a year or 2. But Brian Thomas is definitely going to have to develop. And if you're telling me Gabriel Davis, who's going from Josh Allen, I'm sorry, but I just think Gabriel Davis was going to be an overpriced signing. I like Christian Kirk. I like Evan Ingram. But I don't think those are guys that help you win games. When you talk about Jonathan Taylor, that's the guy that can help you win games. When you talk about Anthony Richardson, if he's clicking, that's the guy that can just absolutely light up the NFL. And I think if he's half of that, which he will be this year, He's going to be a top 15 quarterback.
Hey, you're right. LSU receivers need to develop. LSU receivers all need to develop.
When you look at Jahmyr Chase,
they should have to develop.
Okay, well, if you're going to look at Brian Thomas Jr. and you look at Jahmyr Chase, Justin Jefferson, not even close level of polish.
No, but he's still a dog. He's going to be a great
absolutely a dog, but you're acting like he's just a route runner like Jahmyr Chase or Justin Jefferson. LSU receiver, de facto, those two. Absolutely.
You're banking on a quarterback that hasn't proven himself yet versus a quarterback who already has.
The point I was about to make, again, Anthony Richardson has to overcome a hell of a lot less than Trevor Lawrence does. Trevor Lawrence is a guy that has to be that guy every week in, every week out. Anthony Richardson does not have to do that. And even when he doesn't have to do that, he's still more talented than Trevor Lawrence. Anthony Richardson's a guy that does not have to be throwing 30 times a game. Trevor Lawrence is going to have to throw 30 times a game. And I don't think that's a success.
I don't think 30 times a game in today's NFL is like a bad thing anymore.
It's not a bad thing, but when you talk about winning games and being able to throw 25 times instead of 30, 35 times, being able to run more, there's going to be games when Anthony Richardson throws 18 times and the Colts are winning games. That's a formula for a good fucking football team.
It sounds like you're banking on someone.
Jeff is mind blown.
I've never seen this much glaze for a quarterback who's played in 4 games.
This is nuts.
See what I said? I just said Anthony Richardson has to overcome a whole lot less. I'm talking about the team that's around him.
Okay. Let me
what
ask,
do we talk about all the time? When you have a better team compared to the better quarterback, what's better?
What did Sean say? Finish the sentence.
Lucas, let me bring. And I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I get what you're saying. Okay, you like the situation. I'm sorry. Does Trevor Lawrence play for the fucking Panthers? I mean, what are we talking about here? I mean, the guy, Travis Etienne, last year when they were 8-3. That's when the run game was prioritized. He was getting like 20 carries a game. They were running the football well, and they were winning games. Later in the year, they kind of went away from that. He was injured. Things happen. They lose, whatever. But they're a team that – it's not like Trevor Lawrence is out here throwing 40 times. They have Travis Etienne, who's a top 10 running back. I mean, what are we doing here?
Okay, do the Indianapolis Colts not have a better running back than Jonathan Taylor?
Okay, so running backs win games.
What were the Jacksonville Jaguars without Trevor Lawrence? They were the number 1 pick in the draft, and when he's hurt, they are absolute dog shit. What are the Indianapolis Colts?
You just made the point.
Anthony Richardson. They were damn near in the playoffs last year with Gardner Minshew. So if they can do that, and you're talking about just scraping the floor with Anthony Richardson has to do when he just has to go ding, 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 instead of playing like Trevor Lawrence, yeah, I'm going to take the guy that has way more to work with and a better defense and a better offensive line, a better coach, a better GM. Give me that formula every time. Trevor Lawrence, better quarterback. He's better than Anthony Richardson, but he has to do a hell of a lot more to win games.
I don't think it's that how it's coming off. What I'm hearing is I understand your point about Anthony Richardson, the situation he's in, hand the ball off, just don't turn the ball over. I get that. But like Trevor Lawrence, I think how they're going to run things in Jacksonville isn't going to be too far off of that. Like, I don't think they're going to be like, all right, put on your Superman cape, throw 40 pass attempts a game and win games. Like, I don't think it's going to be like that at all. Like, I don't think
you guys know what's going to happen.
You're talking about guys that are in bad situations and they're the only way they're going to win games. Like, yeah, Trevor Lawrence will be a big reason, but he has help around him. I mean, have you looked at what they have around him?
They have some guys, but they have a lot of holes in that roster. The Indianapolis Colts, they don't have a lot of holes in that roster. You look at that offensive line, Ezra Cleveland is their best offensive lineman. They traded him from Minnesota last year and they re-signed him. He's a guard. Like, they don't have a tackle. They don't have a great center. Like, they don't have that good of an offensive line.
Klotz is digging now. Klotz is really digging deep.
And then you look at their defensive line.
He's moved to the offensive line, even though they started 8-3 last year with the healthy Trevor Lawrence.
I've just seen it. That's where I'm leaning, Klotz. I get your point. Like, I don't think it's that far.
You've seen it, but I do think there's every year there's an NFL team that kind of pops. And you look at the formulas that they have.
You know what?
Very solid. They have a very good culture. They run the ball really good. They play good defense. They just do what they do very well. They don't try to do too much outside of that. They know their identity. I think the Indianapolis Colts, without a doubt, know their identity. The Jacksonville Jaguars, even since they've drafted Trevor Lawrence, have not found their identity. They haven't. The Colts know their identity.
Disagree. Real quick, guys, can I say something? Every time I'm trying here.
Booner, you switched up on the Colts a lot, though.
Not that I switched up because my hand raised here is I think they're both. I think this is a situation where like both sides could be right. Like, I think the Colts could take a step forward this year. Like, me saying the Jags, like switching to the Jags, isn't that I'm everything I said about the Colts is just all automatically just gone. Like, I still think AR can come in, end up being what we think AR was going to be, and they have a really good roster. They have a really good defense. They have a bunch of weapons around him now, and Shane Steichen's is going to be a very good head coach. So, like, I don't think that takes away or like me saying the Jags. I just think as I look more into the Jags, they started 8-3 last year. Their quarterback goes down. They have a beat-up offensive line, a beat-up running back. Everything's beat up, and they end 1-5. I still think if this team stays healthy, that this is like I think there's that point, Jeff, to where there's like that up-down theory a little bit with the NFL as well, to where a lot of people love, like last year, the Jags ended the season very well 2 years ago, and everyone thought, and then they make a run, and then they end up going to the playoffs. I think they won like 6 or 7 of the last 8 games or something, and then everyone the next year thinks that they're about to go to the Super Bowl, and then Trevor Lawrence MVP. And now this year they end the season 1-5, and now everyone's like, oh, they're going to be trash, they're going to be terrible, they're going to be bad, they're not going to be what they were before that. And I think that it's like the up-down theory, to where it's like people think that because at the end of the season they look at the small sample size, but in reality, it's still a really good football team. They still have a really good head coach. Just because they ended the season 1-5, they struggled. The Detroit Lions started the season 2 years ago 1-6, and they ended up at 9-8. So, like, in reality, this Jags team with the healthy Trevor Lawrence, like, yeah, Trevor Lawrence struggled down the stretch last year, but he also started 8-3, and that he had that football team rolling. And the year before, he won 7 of their last 8 and went to the playoffs. Like, he could still play if they're healthy and everything's clicking on all cylinders. All this means is that division is going to be one of the best in football, because you have Trevor Lawrence, Doug Peterson, and the Jags who are firing on all cylinders. You have the Colts, who, Klotz, to your point, and what I thought a couple weeks ago and still kind of think, they take a step forward with Anthony Richardson, and that defense is elite. And you have the Houston Texans in that division. I think, you know what, boys, we should just stop arguing. This might be the best football division of football.
Well, AFC
I think I just solved it.
You know,
I do.
But just to add real quick, you know, I think they take a step forward, Klotzy. I think it's going to be like what Drake said, a size 7 men's on. It'll be like a small step. You know,
I just tried to help bring the boys together.
Let's finish it with this. One more. I'll rebuttal with this. This is a Lukas and Jeff exercise that we're doing right now. Jeff, I'm going to list a position group. I want you to tell me who has the better position group, the Colts or the Jags. So we'll start with running back, Colts or the Jags.
I would give the Colts.
I hate this.
Yeah, I don't think
it has nothing to do with who's gonna have a better year.
Think I would give it to.
We're just talking about who has a better roster at this point.
No. Hold on. I'm gonna.
I'll let them do it.
Quarterback.
I would go Jags. Yeah.
So offensive line.
I'll go Colts.
Wide receivers.
I'm gonna go Jags.
I would disagree, but I'll give it to you if you want to. Defensive line.
Jags.
No way.
Yeah, Eric Armstead, Trevon Walker, and Josh Hines-Allen. Yeah, I'm going Jags.
So we're forgetting about Big Grove, and then I'm blanking on DeForest Buckner, and then who is the other defensive end that they have?
That's my point. Yeah, I mean,
okay.
No,
they got it. I'm losing my mind on the defensive end that they have. Either way, linebackers.
I mean, the Jag, what do they got? Devin Lloyd. Yeah, I mean, who do the Colts got?
They have Ukuriri or whatever his name is, and then they have Zaire Franklin, and then they
have Latu.
Yes, Latu. That's who I'm thinking. I was like, I couldn't think of who
I'm still going to go Jags, but I like Latu.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think
the linebackers got to go. The linebackers, you got to go Colts.
Yeah,
and then secondary, got to go Colts. Head coach, I'm gonna go Colts. GM, I'm gonna go Colts.
See, I think you could say Colts, but I think it is a little premature to go Colts. Like Doug Peterson's been to Super Bowls. Well, we're just
personally,
I like Shane Steichen, but like, give me some sample size here first.
Personally, I'll even give it to Klotz. I think Shane Steichen is better, but to your point, Booner, like I don't think it's. I mean,
instantly just to be like, oh, Shane Steichen, like he's been a head coach for
when
one
you
season.
see a dog, you know a dog.
Yeah, I like Shane Steichen a lot. I think they're both good coaches. I think Doug Peterson's a good coach too, but I would give the edge to Shane.
I just think that's just like. I just think that's just like that's just you just like the guy more. Like that's all that is. Let's not even be like no. This whole argument's voided because you just like the guy more. So you're like Shane Steichen.
So my whole argument is voided because I really like a head coach that's fitting the mold for 2024.
He's been a head coach
who was
for 1
winning
year.
in 2017. My whole argument is voided, even though I like
the head coach for
1
year and won 8 games. He's won 8 career games. The head coach.
If you look at 8 career games,
been to a Super Bowl
with a rookie quarterback with Joe Flacco, and then you watch how that offense is schemed. When you look at that running game, you look at the route concepts. Like if you watch that offense, you'd probably get it. But
all right, I don't watch football and I don't know football.
No,
the ball knower again here. Watch
You're saying
film.
all this, not I.
No, the
You're
ball
saying
knower
it,
again.
I.
Watch the film.
Well,
no,
my
think
whole argument's voided, so it doesn't matter what I say.
I think they're both good coaches, but if you asked me, like, hey, if I have T-Law, if I'm a GM, what coach would I have? I would go Shane Steichen with T-Law. I'm just
I mean, he's younger and he still has more to prove, but like, maybe I would pick him, but like, who's been more proven? Give me Doug Peterson.
Well, no shit.
Like if I had to pick a team to go to a Super Bowl next year, to lead a team to a Super Bowl next year,
don't give me
CJ
Stroud over Jared Goff. Jared Goff proved it more. Take him. Keep CJ Stroud over there. He's only had 1 year. He's got to prove it.
That's just completely different. But all right, let's move on.
Okay, keep going. We're bickering here.
It's just Lucas just picking favorites. That's all.
No, okay, no. I get your exercise, Klotzy, but we could agree it is close. All right, it was close. We it wasn't all Colts. We had some.
No.
I think they both
exercise.
Yep, I get it. That's fair. I like what you did there.
I don't think anyone said how many wins they think each team's going to have.
I'm going to go.
I didn't even answer yet. People have been saying in the chat. I was just letting you guys bicker it out, but I'm still going with the Jags here. I'm still not buying all the hype behind Anthony Richardson. He still needs to go out there, stay healthy, and show it all. But I'm sticking with the Jags, and it kind of pains me to say it. I have Trevor Lawrence, how much he's wronged me, but I think if he does stay healthy, I think they do have some potential on the offense. Obviously, Gabe Davis is shit. I know we've gotten that point across, but I'm still going with the Jags.
Mo Alley Cox, don't sleep.
I will say, I know I said this pretty quickly. Colts wide receiver core is pretty good. I think it is.
That's why I let you have it, but I was like, dude,
it's close.
Michael Pittman's better than Christian Kirk, and I was just gonna leave it. And then you go with the depth. It
doesn't fit my narrative, Klotz.
I let you have
narrative.
I think they both are at like 8 to 10 wins.
I don't think they're much of a difference, but I think it's going to be like a 1 game difference.
I think the Jags are the 10-win team, though.
10, one's at 10, one's at 8, 9. But I'll leave it there.
I'll take my hill. One-man army.
Hey, well, let's get to Rich Eisen because this is a great segment here because he was pumping up Jahmyr Gibbs. Okay, Jahmyr Gibbs getting love from Rich Eisen. Let's play the clip from the Rich Eisen show because he reviewed the running back list that we discussed and he gave his thoughts on Jahmyr Gibbs. So let's play the clip and hear what Rich Eisen had to say.
By the way, too low at 3, maybe?
Maybe so, but here's how I'm going. I am so high on this guy. Yeah. I'm like Lenny in Panama City. Jahmyr Gibbs, guys. Jahmyr friggin' Gibbs for the Lions. We saw it. He was getting stronger last year. And I know he's the lightning monster in this thunder and lightning equation there with Montgomery, but I just think he's going to be too good to not give a gajillion touches to. And I think that last year was just a surface scratch. How about that?
Agree.
And then number one we all know is Christian McCaffrey.
Ooh, yeah.
Klotzy.
He could be the number 2 back
with the GOAT
in the league.
Second best in the league. He said he's going to be the second best running back in 2024.
Over
Brees Hall, I was watching this, boys, and I was like, is he not going to say Jahmyr Gibbs? Because they got to 4, and I was like, because he had Bijan at 7. His top 10 was, number 10 was ETN. Number 9 was Aaron Jones. Number 8 was Nick Chubb. Number 7 was Bijan. 6 was Saquon. 5 was Jonathan Taylor. 4 was Derrick Henry. 3 was Brees Hall. 2 was Jahmyr, and 1 was CMC. So it was getting like to Derrick Henry, and then I was like, there's no is he just going to leave Jahmyr off? And they put him at 2. But everything he was saying is what I've been preaching, but I don't think he's going to get a gazillion touches. I think, obviously, he's outside of the Detroit Lions, like, compared to how we are. So we obviously know that Monty's going to get fed a little bit more than he's expecting. But I'm definitely, like, if there's where you guys are at, if there's where Rich Eisen's at, I'm saying I'm, like, right here. Like, I just do think there's, like, you talk about big games, San Francisco 49ers. You talk about the divisional games late in the season. Those are the games where it's like, we want to stick to our game plan with Monty here, but goddamn, we just need Jahmyr in the game. We just can't take him off the field. He's making too many plays. Get down to the goal line. Here you go, Monty. Take one in. But I think when you talk about just the usage, they're going to find ways to get Jahmyr Gibbs the ball a little bit more than, in my opinion, than I think you guys expect. We've been down that road 1,000 times.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I do get your point, Klotzy. Like I do like big games when you're looking like in the playoffs. Like you saw it last year. Demont got his touches, but like when push came to shove and it was like we need playmakers and we need to go out there and make like we need a touchdown on this drive. Guess who was on the field last year down the stretch? Jahmyr Gibbs. And like when you needed a play to be made, Jahmyr Gibbs was making the play. Like in the Bucs game, like those games, like Jahmyr Gibbs was out there making those plays. And I do think, Klotz, I think this is something me and you agreed on a lot. The ceiling of Jahmyr Gibbs is the best weapon in all of football. And we've had the discussion already. And when Lewis, who was it that said
Louis Riddick?
Lewis Riddick that said that? That they said he could be offensive player of the year. So like we know what his ceiling is. It's just about working that in within the offense. And like CMC is a lone back. He has Elijah Mitchell who barely gets touches anymore.
Not even there
anymore. That's the difference now with him and Demont. Is Demont does like he is still a top 10 running back in my opinion. I would put Demont as a top 10, I think, or right top 12 if you want. So that's where it gets a little. But like I'm with Rich. Like I said it a couple days ago. I think like by the end of 2024, you're going to see CMC, Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, Jahmyr Gibbs, all as your top 4. No order there, but I think that's your top 4 at the end of the 2024 of running backs. And I think those guys, and I love Rich Eisen too. Like that's one of my like. If we got Rich Eisen as a guest, like I would. Dan Orlovsky, I'm a big Dan Orlovsky fan. Rich Eisen's like, boom, like give me Rich Eisen on the show.
Yeah, I don't hate the narrative that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to arrive. I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all, actually. I think this year there's going to be backs that not only are getting more touches, that also on top of that, I just think will be more productive. And those players we talked about the other day, I had Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, who's Breece Hall, who's one I'm forgetting, Nick Chubb. Yeah, I think he'll be right there with Nick Chubb. I think he'll be like a top 5 running back this year. That's where I had him, and he'll be in there in that top 5. I think closer to 5. But I don't hate people being high on him. I think he's extremely talented. It's just about the situation he's in. I think sharing a backfield. I've said it 1,000 times. Like Montgomery is going to have 800, 900 yards this year. I a ton of touchdowns. Although, like we could go off the eye test, like Klotz, you look at Jahmyr, you're like, yeah, okay, this guy's good. This guy's really good, actually. But in terms of stacking up with like the Christian McCaffreys of the world, who's going to get a ton of touches, same with Saquon and Breece Hall, I just don't think he'll be better than those 3 guys, in my opinion. Nick Chubb, you can argue. I don't hate that. Coming off a big injury, I get that. But the other players, I don't think so, in my opinion.
Yeah, I still think he'll be right outside the top 3 as far as like the running backs go. But like the one thing I disagree about is like sometimes last year you seen Ben Johnson in the second half like go away from the bully ball, and what really worked for them in the first half with using both Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery. So like I think it's still, you want to see Gibbs get more catches, you want to see Gibbs get some more runs. But if you don't like keep it honest, like I've been saying, and you use both of them, like I don't think it's going to be as good as the outcome that we expect. Just, being, I don't want to say selfish, but putting more of the load on one person. I don't think it's going to work out as good as people do think it is. I think the way it is right now is perfect, and going away from David Montgomery and not keeping it honest, using both of them would be a mistake, in my opinion. David Montgomery is a fucking dog. And the bully ball he played down the stretch and some of the plays he made for the Lions last year is irreplaceable if he's not on that roster.
What I think too, to Gentry's point, what I think might end up happening, and a lot of people have said this, is I think like the positions just get flopped, like the carries, because there was a significant there was like 30 different 30 more carries I think Demont had. Like I could see Jahmyr getting those carries and that getting flopped. I think Jeremy said that, and the doc has said that as well.
And thinking Monty played in one less game as well.
Yeah.
So
yep.
Got that many more carries.
So like I do think like you still like that's the thing. It's like you can't go away from Demont. Like again, he's a top 12 running back in the NFL. Like you have to give him the rock. I just think like to your point, Klotzy, and we've like that ceiling of Jahmyr Gibbs. Like he could be the number one weapon in all of football. Like, he has the potential. Like, you have that on your roster, and you have another top 10 running back, and you have a top 3 tight end and a top 5 wide receiver. You have to find a way to use them. And I think Ben Johnson's perfect to be able to do it. I just don't know. Like, he's got a job to do this year. It's going to be interesting to see how he does it.
You know, I always have this question, and I will ask you guys this. You know, when we talk about him being in that top tier, having just an all-pro year, offensive player of the year, all this stuff that is in the yards required in order to do that, David Montgomery has 2 more years left on his contract. When does he hit that? When does he get that type of production? Like, that's what my genuine question. Like, not that he's not talented, but for that type of year, how does he do that with 2 more years of Montgomery? And I'm assuming they re-sign him. If they don't, then there you go. Then it's the Jahmyr Gibbs show. But 2 more years, fellas. Like, now we're talking closer to when his contract's due. I mean, he'll be in his 3rd year, going into his 4th year. He's got the 5th year option. But with Montgomery, I just don't see him getting, 1,500 yards rushing in his with at least with Montgomery. I don't see that 1,400 even. Unless he goes down. Unless he goes down. If there's an injury, then it changes everything.
1,500 steep, but I mean, you guys, like, if you look at Alvin Kamara as far as rushing yards, like, he's still never had a 1,000-yard rushing season. Like, he's still never ran for over 1,000 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs going to do that next year, and what he can do on the ground. I think if you look at David Montgomery, he's going to be here, but I don't think he's a player that they're going to re-sign because I don't think he's a necessity. Just Jeff, what you preach on running backs, and you look at David Montgomery and you look at Jahmyr Gibbs, there's again levels there. In my opinion, you re-sign the guys that what Jahmyr Gibbs we all think he can be. You re-sign those type of guys, not for 5 years long term. But then David Montgomery's like, you found David Montgomery in free agency. There will be somebody in his tiers that's in the draft or in free agency. So I think that's a guy that you can replace. As nice as he is on the Lions team, I don't think he's irreplaceable. Jahmyr Gibbs, what he brings to the field is irreplaceable. And I think that Brad Holmes knows about that rookie contract more than anybody. So I think this is the year where you see Jahmyr Gibbs take a big step as far as going into that all-pro type of tier, but I think he's a Pro Bowler this year with all-pro talent. And then you look at that next year, David Montgomery's final contract year, I think that's when Jahmyr Gibbs takes that all-pro step. Just because, again, you're not going to draft that guy at 12 and not at least see what he can be for a full season of just getting that type of workload. I'm not saying they're going to be giving him CMC workload because there's not a lot of running backs that do that, but he's going to have a season where he's going to get like 70% of the running back share.
I mean, you
guys. Yeah, I mean, well, the thing with that too is like D-Mount right now, and I'm gonna like he's in his prime. Like he's at the best. Maybe not he'll be in his career, but he's going into his 6th year of football. Yeah. Next year will be his 7th. His final year would be his 7th. I think what's going to happen, and I'm not going to sit up here and say that like you're not going to resign D-Mount. Like I'm going to lock it in. You're not going to, because what could happen is okay, now we find a good you have a good duo. Like you find a way for Jahmyr Gibbs to go out there and get the $1,500 or the $1,700 all-purpose yards or whatever it is that you're looking for him to get, and D-Mount to still go out there and get 900 to 1,000 rushing yards. I don't think that's something that's crazy. We've seen similar things done before with some guys, and like last year, you have basically 1,400 all-purpose yards with Jahmyr Gibbs and 1,100 with D-Mount. Like you saw the split there, and you lost a weapon to where now, Jeff, we've spoken about how Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get more touches in the pass game. Like now you add more yards there with Jahmyr, and he's going to have more rushing yards. I think within the next year or two, they're going to find a fine line and how to use these guys and how to make sure Jahmyr Gibbs, like you're not using Jahmyr Gibbs to his full capability. And I think they're going to be able to find a way, because you do have D-Mount for 2 more years. So they're going to have to find a balance, and they're going to have to figure it out. And like to D-Mount's point in that interview the other day, like he's like, we need each other. Like we help each other get to our ceilings. So D-Mount's contract's up, and in 2 years, they win a Super Bowl and things happen, and you're looking at it and you're like, yeah, hey, we figured out a good way to use these guys as a 1-2 punch here, and we know what we're doing, and we're hitting Jahmyr Gibbs' ceiling. We can sign D-Mount in his 8th season, and guess what, Klotzy? If Jahmyr Gibbs is doing what we think he's going to do, that we think he can go out there and get 1,700 all-purpose yards, that does mean David Montgomery is only getting 900 to 1,000. Guess what that means? That means his contract's going to be about the same, if not a little cheaper, and you can re-sign him. And yeah, you might have to re-sign Jahmyr Gibbs, but D-Mont's contract's not breaking your bank. Like you got him for what you wanted to sign Jamal Williams. And in year 8 or him going into year 8 or year 9, basically just past like around his prime, like he's not going to ask for a crazy contract. So I don't think it's like a out of this world to say, hey, D-Mont's never going to come back. Like you only have 2 more years with him and he's done. Like if they find a good 1-2 punch with them, I think there's a chance that you do see D-Mont staying.
I just think as far as with that, if you just look at like the great running back duos in NFL history, like they're only together for a couple of years because especially if they're winning, like you go out, you win a bowl, you're probably not making that much money. Okay, you just won. Let's go make some money now because running backs don't make much money as it is. If he has a chance when he's probably going to be pushing 30 years old to go get a 1-2 year contract for what like Derrick Henry just got, Aaron Jones, all those guys, I could see that very well happening because again, that's when you're going to have to really start counting your pennies because now you're talking about, ooh, Laporta's contract's coming soon. Ooh, GIbbs is coming up soon. Like there's going to be other guys like Brian Branch, like those guys' contracts in 2-3 years. You're going to want to get ahead of those.
Yeah, hey,
that's a developing story. The next 2 years of the running back situation in Detroit is very interesting. They might just draft another running back too. Think about
what
that.
I'm saying. Like you can do that. You can draft guys that can be like.
Well, no, Jeff.
Jeff,
I more so mean they re-sign Jahmyr Gibbs and draft the David Montgomery replacement on a rookie deal.
Jeff can't wait for. I can't. They're gonna re-sign Jahmyr to like a 3-year deal, and I can't wait to take a victory lap on Jeff.
Oh, I'm gonna, yeah.
CMC, Saquon, Kamara, all the guys that he's got comp to, guess what they do? Get re-signed.
Hey, well, they drafted Vaki, huh?
Maybe Baki's already back too.
Vaki will be a fine third down type of back behind Jahmyr if injury happens.
All right. Fits my narrative.
Hey, bump ups out of the night. Bump them up. Jahmyr Jefferson, bump them up.
No, I hope Jahmyr never finds that out, like how I feel about that. Because like it sounds so sick. Like it's not that I don't want guys getting paid. I want them to get paid. I just from a general manager perspective, I'm not paying running backs, you know. You guys see the Giants? They doing like the Hard Knocks thing where Joe Dean, he's just like, hey, we're not paying that man. Like, but what he said after that,
sweet though.
I'm out. What he said after that, he's like, whoa, we're not gonna have a $12 million quarterback or a running back, and we're gonna have our $40 million quarterback feed him the ball. And it's like, no, you fucked up by giving him $40 million.
Yeah.
Like that.
Can we agree that Saquon's better for that team than the Giants? Could you imagine a rookie quarterback with Malik Neighbors and Saquon instead of Daniel Jones?
I agree 110%. Dude, imagine quarterback Klotz. You know what? Might be there an exception.
Jaden Daniels.
I would agree with that.
Oh, man.
Dude, even like Drake May, like better than Daniel Jones. Like Daniel Jones threw for 15 touchdowns and got paid $40 million.
He won a playoff game versus the Vikings, the fraud Vikings.
But the thing is like it's the Giants. They won Super Bowl like 9-10 years ago with Eli, 2 of them. Like they've won Super Bowls. Not like the Lions where it's like playoff win. You get the key to the city. Like that's a team that's won Super Bowls numerous times in their franchise history.
Yeah, you ain't lying. I don't hate that. If you have a rookie quarterback, it allows you to do more things. But in general, especially when you're paying your quarterback, you're not re-signing it. Like watch Isaiah Pacheco. Watch how the Chiefs play that one out. Pay very close attention.
But he's no Jahmyr.
Yeah.
By no means.
Yeah. Hey, he runs like an absolute like a crack.
He's got rent due every snap.
I love Isaiah. He plays hard, man. I love Isaiah Pacheco. He's great. Let's get to some mailbag. We have some questions getting fired away already. That guy up north, mailbag. Do you think Lions running backs as a whole could combine for 100+ receptions this year? It's a lot. How many? You had like 50 last?
I think
50. And Monty had what?
So they had
like 15.
52 and 16.
I don't know about 100. I don't know about 100.
No.
I'm
trying to think of like Baki could get like 10. Like I'm trying to think of guys like that, but I don't know.
I think they'll be close. Maybe like 80.
They had 72 or 73 total as a running back group with like Craig Reynolds, Zonovan Knight. They had like 72 or 73.
I feel like I'm trying to think how many more receptions I think Gibbs will get.
I think Gibbs maybe gets 2 a game, like 1 or 2 a game.
More?
You think so? More than that?
I think.
So you think he gets like 30 more receptions this year?
I can see
more than that actually.
2 to 3 a game. Yeah.
So let's say 3. That's 50 more receptions essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So like that puts you at over
a game would be what's 17 times
17 times 3. That's
51.
Yeah, so 50. So yeah, they would hit that reception mark for sure then.
Wait, we're talking about Jahmyr?
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 a game is 51 catches. It's not like it's what he
has. He gets 3 more a game. He already had 52 catches, so
he'll get
he's
more.
going to get over 100.
No, not 3 more. I'm sorry, 3 a game.
I think at
yeah, no, we're talking about 3 more. How many more?
I think you'll have 1 more, maybe
1 or 2 more receptions a game.
1. Yeah, I think 3 as like a 4 a game.
I was like 100 receptions.
No, I misheard you there.
Man, with 71 targets.
Yeah, because you said 100. I'm like, wait.
70 targets. Yeah, he's probably going to get 100 targets.
Not 100. I was like I'm like in my head like, what? No, you're good. No, yeah,
he had 7 more targets than Josh Reynolds. Kind of crazy.
Mr. Detroit City, Mailbag, BMG. How do you keep your hands?
Oh my God, not this again. You gotta wash your hands, man.
Put your hands up against it. Let's see your hands. Whoa. You should do like the hand modeling.
I don't even know what that means, Booner.
Yeah, it's on Friends. He does a hand model.
She starts selling clay models. BMG's hands.
It's like when you walk into the mall and there's like the videos of people like spraying cologne, like in those videos, like those are hand models that are spraying it. They're like nice hands and you don't see the person, you just see like like those video boards. Do you know those video boards in the mall where like you don't see like they're like showing perfume commercials and you don't see like a head, it's just like a hand with a spray and you're like those are hand models.
I know what you're saying, Booner.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, and Seinfeld has a hand models. Shout out Seinfeld. I watched that too. I've seen that.
LFG says I don't track the NFL, NBA like you guys do, so I learn a shit ton from this content. Grateful. Well, LFG,
LFG.
We appreciate that.
You have a great handlebar mustache if that's really you. I don't think it is.
I hope it is. Tom says Mailbag, hate to be a downer, but what Lions position groups can't afford injuries? We'll name like
Booner, say yours.
Hate to be a downer, but what Lions position groups can't afford injuries?
Quarterback. No, I'm just kidding. That's a cop out.
Wide receiver and defensive line.
Boone's big on that wide receiver room depth.
Yeah. I think it's one on. If we're going on one on each side, wide receiver, D line.
I don't disagree with Boone. So
tackle too. Panay or Taylor goes down.
Yeah.
No, I have said. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm gonna go with that because tackle is probably my big thing too.
Well, didn't Taylor go down last year for a game, and then we were able to kind of.
Colby went in.
Yeah,
I'm saying like on a consistent basis, like if Taylor go down for like a month, Panay go down for a month, you're sweating because that affects your passing and your run game.
I don't think we talk enough about like Colby.
I think the offensive line.
Yeah, like Colby, Klotz. I remember like we had the argument before, and I think you've came around a little bit about Colby because he got thrown into the fire when he shouldn't have. He's going to end up being like a big piece going forward. Like if he doesn't work out this offseason, like
he's your big piece, Boone.
Like he's like next man up. Like if someone goes down, you need Colby. And so like I'm not saying the season depends on him, but like there's going to be offensive line injuries. And if like I am praying Colby shows up to training camp like
he's just
I think he's like, and this isn't like I hope it doesn't sound like it, but I think he's like equivalent to what Skip is.
No, I don't think that's a diss at all.
Yeah, I can see some people make fun of like Skip.
The problem is you need him to be your Graham Skip. You need him to be your Graham Glasgow of last year.
Yeah, but Graham was a guy that played in Detroit, played in Denver, has experience, and that's just something Colby doesn't have. So
I think saying as the position. Yeah, rotation. Like that's like last year you had Graham as like the 6th man. Your 6th man right now is Colby Sorsdale. And like he better be ready.
He's the key.
I'm coming at him.
The boy from William and Mary.
You're coming at him, Boone.
If he's not ready to go, like we all have to show up and be ready for our jobs. Like Jeff's out tomorrow. I got to be ready tomorrow to go. If Colby Sorsdale, someone goes down,
he's the linchpin,
and he's not ready to go, we have a problem. Like Christian Mahogany, Mahogany, maybe he's ready. I don't know, but Colby, please be ready.
Colby, he's the linchpin in this whole operation.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get into a Colby.
By the way, I will be out Thursday and Friday, so the boys will be holding it down.
Vacation time, boy.
Yeah,
you enjoy it, Jeff.
So you know what? Boys are they're gonna be great. You got John Macaroon tomorrow. So people are asking about John. He's not here today. He had an appointment. So tomorrow he's here on Thursday instead. So tune into tomorrow's show. Be the boys.
Can't wait.
It'll be a lot of fun. Michael says, Mailbag, if Netflix did corner next, what DBs would you like to see on the show?
Terrion Arnold.
Can we do like how they did receiver and did like tight ends and make that like safety?
You just want to put Brian Branch in there?
No,
I want Derwin James mic'd up.
Well, then it would be defensive back because it's like receiver.
Yeah.
If it's corner, it's corners.
Go strict corner.
Yay.
You'd have to be like defensive.
Terrion.
Jalen Ramsey for sure. I love Jalen Ramsey.
Darius Slay.
Witherspoon.
Devon Witherspoon would be a good one. Stingley would be interesting.
Oh,
just because
Sauce.
I don't
give me Sauce.
I just said him.
Oh, did you? Let's go.
Yeah, that was my first one.
I love that one.
This is easy. I'll give you 3.
Ooh.
Sauce Gardner, Jair Alexander, Jalen Ramsey. Actually, I'll do a 4th, and Darius Slay.
Darius Slay.
Let's
do
I know we don't like him because he's on the other side. Jalen Johnson would be funny because he runs his mouth. Jalen Johnson would be a good one to get mic'd up.
I think we have to have
show.
I think we have to have Detroit Lions because quarterback was terrible without a Detroit Lions. Amon-Ra St. Brown and receivers was great. If you do,
they need to do a tackle. Do Panay.
Or I think anytime they do a position, they have to I think in their fine print because I think Peyton Manning's the one that sets it up. He needs to put in the fine print. We need one Detroit Lion player every single time.
It's fair.
Turn into the American team. Need them.
Well, great show today, fellas. I thought we had a great show. A lot of good talking points. I thought we had some good discussions, NFL and Lions related. We'll get into more tomorrow, or they will. So tune in, support the fellas.
You're not here, brother.
Yeah, see, I'm not used to it. I'll be checking in. I'll be in the chat. I'll be seeing what's up with the boys.
Brother, go enjoy your vacation.
You ain't got no service up there.
I don't know if I do. Hey, but until tomorrow, fellas, we'll see you. Stay blessed out there.
Love you guys.